The rich woman principal became my wife. Gu Qingyan, this is 1 million, take it and play with it, don't ask our dad for money in the future, my money is enough for us to spend. Luo Xinghe lay on the soft big bed, tears sliding down his cheeks, falling on the money that he could not spend at all. Luo Xinghe, I really don't want to live this kind of life without motivation anymore. Turned around to collect the money and went to be free and easy. Chapter 1, Son, do you want a wife or not? Son, do you want a wife or not? If you want a wife, I'll bring her to you right away. In Lincheng, at the Luo family mansion, Luo Xinghe was still lying in bed when he received a call from his father. He was completely bewildered. I'm just a prospective college student, and you're asking me if I want a wife. Then bring her. Luo Xinghe thought his dad was just teasing him. Having just woken up and in a bad mood, Luo Xinghe impulsively responded, wanting to retort his father. Unexpectedly, his father, sounding serious, told him to hurry and get up and prepare his ID card. He then said he'd take him to register for marriage soon. Luo Xinghe immediately hung up the phone. He thought his dad had lost his mind. How could something like a wife just appear out of nowhere? After hanging up, Luo Xinghe opened the bedroom curtains, and the bright sunlight immediately poured in, shining on his messy hair like a bird's nest. Luo Xinghe, the youngest son of Luo Jiang. As the son of the Luo family, he had been expected by his father to inherit the family business. However, Luo Xinghe was naturally playful, loved to lie down, and had no interest in taking over the business. He also took a carefree approach to studying. After just finishing his college entrance exams, he scored 460 points, which was barely enough to pass the undergraduate line in Shanghai province, only qualifying for a private university. Although Luo Xinghe's father had connections and could use other methods to get him into a top provincial school, Luo Xinghe didn't want to. To him, it didn't matter where he went to school. A good university was harder to navigate, so he'd rather just spend 4 years in a private school. This nearly gave Luo Jiang a heart attack. Xinghe. While brushing his teeth in the bathroom, the housekeeper, Wang Mar, suddenly came to find him. What is it, Wang Mar? Luo Xinghe asked. Wang Mar grabbed his arm. Xinghe, your father's back, he wants you to come downstairs right away. All right, Luo Xinghe rinsed his mouth and wiped his face with a towel, then prepared to go downstairs. Wang Mar added, Xinghe, I saw your dad brought a young woman with him. Could she be your stepmother? What? He dares. Hearing this, Luo Xinghe immediately got angry. His mother had only passed away 3 years ago, and his father already dared to bring someone new home. Luo Xinghe opened the door and quickly went downstairs to the living room. At that moment, he could clearly see his father, Luo Jiang, sitting across from a stunningly beautiful woman. She had thick eyebrows and large eyes, a high nose bridge, delicate lips, and enviable fair skin. She wore a white blouse with the collar slightly open, exposing her fair neck and delicate collarbones. Below, she had a captivating figure, with a slim waist and curvy hips barely concealed under her stepmother's skirt. Her long, sensual legs were covered in black stockings, and her smooth ankles rested in a pair of black stilettos. Luo Xinghe couldn't take his eyes off her after just one glance. Soon, the woman turned her head and made eye contact with him. Her sharp and determined gaze made him quickly avert his eyes. Luo Xinghe turned back to look at his smiling father and clenched his fists. This woman seemed to be in her early 20s, while his father was in his 50s, truly a case of an old cow eating young grass. Moreover, his mother had only passed away 3 years ago, so this scene was unbearable for him. Luo Jiang, you're really out here playing around? Luo Xinghe shouted. Luo Jiang turned his head in confusion. You brat, who told you to call me by my full name? I call you by your full name. Luo Xinghe took out his phone and said, you've already brought her home, and now you're blaming me for calling you by your full name. Tell me, when did you get together with her? If you don't come clean, I'll call second sister and let her know what kind of person you are. Luo Jiang, not understanding what was happening, explained to the woman sitting across from him, Qingyan, sorry, I need to deal with my talkative son first. The woman smiled slightly but didn't say anything. Luo Jiang walked over and snatched the phone from Luo Xinghe's hand. This is nonsense. Give it back. I'm calling second sister to discuss this with her, and I'll let her see if you've done anything wrong. Luo Xinghe said as he tried to grab his phone back. Luo Jiang rebutted, discuss what? You've already brought your wife home, and you're asking what to discuss. That is your wife? Luo Jiang shouted. Luo Xinghe froze in place. My wife? Luo Jiang's anger flared as he saw his son calm down. He waved his hand and called the woman sitting on the sofa over. This is Ji Qingyan, your uncle Ji's daughter. Hello, Ji Qingyan smiled softly and extended her fair, slender right hand. Why, you're good, Luo Xinghe scratched his head, awkwardly shaking her hand. My wife? What kind of international joke is this? Luo Xinghe glanced at Ji Qingyan again. His heart raced as he stared at her delicate face and lively eyes. But soon, he grabbed his father by the shoulder and pulled him to the side. What's going on? Luo Jiang whispered into Luo Xinghe's ear, you know your uncle Ji passed away. Before he died, his last wish was to see Qingyan married as soon as possible. Qingyang is a filial daughter, and to fulfill your uncle Ji's wish, she decided to find someone to marry. And you decided to choose me? Luo Xinghe asked incredulously, his eyes wide open. Luo Jiang patted him on the chest. Would your father harm you? Just tell me, how does Qingyan look? Luo Xinghe turned his head and glanced at Ji Qingyan, then nodded subconsciously. She is beautiful. And, your uncle Ji has passed away. Now, he has left his assets to Qingyan to manage. This girl is capable, and if she can marry into our family, I'll die content. Luo Xinghe. While Luo Jiang and Luo Xinghe were talking, Ji Qingyan quietly walked behind them. Luo uncle, what do you think? Luo Xinghe turned around, still too shy to look her in the eyes. Ji Qingyan looked at this shy young man and gently patted his head. Let me share my thoughts. If you want to marry me, and if you're looking for other girls, I won't stop you, as long as you don't bring them home. We can just be ordinary people who got married on paper. If you want me to fulfill the duties of a wife, I can do that too, but if you choose this path, you can't look for other girls. Of course, if you're unwilling, I won't force you. After all, this happened suddenly, and you weren't prepared. Luo Xinghe lowered his head, silent. Meanwhile, Luo Jiang kept nudging his son with his hand, hoping for a response. Ji Qingyan stood there waiting, and when Luo Xinghe remained silent, she sighed and said softly, then I understand your meaning. With that, Ji Qingyan turned to leave. At that moment, Luo Xinghe grabbed her arm. Chapter 2, A Happy Marriage Certificate. 2 hours later, at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau. Happy marriage registration, little husband. I still have some things to do, so I won't accompany you. We added each other on WeChat earlier. I'll transfer you 100,000. From now on, use my money, don't spend dad's money anymore. After saying that, Ji Qingyan turned around and kissed Luo Xinghe on the cheek, then drove off in a red Ferrari. Luo Xinghe was left standing there, holding the red booklet, in a daze. He touched the spot where Ji Qingyan had kissed him and suddenly felt that the world seemed so unreal. Just this morning, he was still a single man, and by the afternoon, he was already married. While Luo Xinghe was lost in thought, a message suddenly came through on his phone. He opened it and saw that the 100,000 yuan had been transferred by Ji Qingyan. Along with the transfer was her message, no need to save money for me, feel free to spend it. Luo Xinghe didn't reply or accept the transfer. He drove off in the BMW his father had just bought for him, heading home. At the Luo family estate. Good. 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 Luo Jiang, leaning on the sofa, repeatedly praised the red marriage booklet that Luo Xinghe brought back. But Luo Xinghe still seemed a bit dazed. Now that we have Qingyang's support, I can get the burden off my shoulders sooner. Then you and Qingyang can have a grandson for me, and I can truly live a peaceful life. Luo Jiang happily envisioned the future. Seeing that Luo Xinghe didn't respond, Luo Jiang furrowed his brows. Son, did you hear me? Luo Xinghe snapped back to reality. What's up? I said, you and Qingyang should have a grandson for me soon. Luo Jiang said loudly. This kid, always so absent-minded. Luo Xinghe scratched his head, embarrassed. Dad, isn't it a little early to talk about this now? Early. Luo Jiang waved his hand. Not early at all. When a man grows up, he should get married, and when a woman grows up, she should get married. Back in the day when your mother and I. Dad, let us not bring up those old stories, my ears are already sore from hearing them. Luo Xinghe made a face of impatience. You brat, now you're annoyed with your old man. You really forgot your father after getting a wife. All right, hurry up and pack. Tomorrow I'll have the driver take you to school. At the same time, at the Lincheng Academy, Chairman and Principal's office. Principal Gu, the freshmen are starting tomorrow. You'll need to give a speech at tomorrow night's freshman meeting. I've already prepared the speech for you, and it's on your desk. Gu Qingyan nodded lightly. The secretary continued, also, the student information you asked me to look into, I found the files you needed, and I've already sent them to your computer. I see, Gu Qingyan waved her hand expressionlessly. You can leave now, I'm done here. All right, don't forget about the meeting with the other school leaders at 4 o'clock. After the secretary said this, she left Gu Qingyang's office and closed the door behind her. With the sound of the door closing, Gu Qingyang opened Luo Xinghe's personal file on her computer. Name, Luo Xinghe. Age, 19. Graduated from Huqing Senior High School. There was also a photo of Luo Xinghe. Gu Qingyang picked up her coffee cup, her eyes narrowing slightly. Yes, Luo Xinghe was indeed the son of Luo Jiang, and the one she had just married. Now, her husband had become her student, and Gu Qingyang suddenly found this situation interesting. September 1st. Luo Jiang's driver, Mr. Liu, drove Luo Xinghe to the school entrance. Luo Xinghe declined Mr. Liu's offer to accompany him for registration and went in alone to complete the registration process. Dragging his suitcase, he went through a series of signing procedures in the small square in front of the school gate and finally received the key to his dorm room. Building 5, Room 603. This would be his home for the next 4 years, though given the distance from home, he might often go back home to stay. After all, dorms couldn't compare to the comfort of home. And maybe he would even go to Qingyang's place. Luo Xinghe idly thought, dragging his suitcase to room 603. He opened the door, and the dorm already had 2 people inside. One was a short-haired guy, wearing only a grey tank top, holding a 5-kilogram dumbbell in each hand, working out. The other was chubby, with a round face, and his bed was piled with all sorts of snack gift boxes. When they saw someone open the door, they immediately stopped what they were doing and turned to look. Hey, a new guy. The chubby guy spoke first. Hello, I'm Jiang Chuan. Liu Ziming. The short-haired guy also said after putting down his dumbbells. Luo Xinghe smiled and greeted them, hello, I'm Luo Xinghe. The 3 exchanged pleasantries and then went back to what they were doing. While busy, they chatted casually. Jiang Chuan sat on the bed, eating a bag of Lay's chips, and said, hey, have you heard? Our school has a new principal. What's so special about that? Liu Ziming replied, still lifting his dumbbells. Jiang Chuan said, this time, it's different. The new principal is a woman. I heard she's really young, only about 25 or 26, and super pretty. They say she looks like Liu Fei. Really? As soon as Liu Ziming heard that she looked like Liu Fei, he stopped exercising, wiped his sweat, and ran over to Jiang Chuan's bed. Got any photos? Yeah, actually. Jiang Chuan pulled up a news article on Baidu titled, GU Group appoints new leader, GU Baijiang's daughter takes over as chairman. But Luo Xinghe wasn't interested in any of this. A female principal is just a female principal, being pretty or not, it didn't matter to him. In fact, a pretty principal was just more pleasant to the eyes. Luo Xinghe finished making his bed and sat on the edge of his bed. Just then, his WeChat beeped. He took out his phone and saw a message from Qingyan. Gu Qingyan, did you arrive at school? Luo Xinghe picked up his phone and replied, I'm here. Gu Qingyan, have you decided on the 2 options I gave you yesterday? Which one will you choose? What options? Luo Xinghe frowned, thinking hard. Suddenly, he remembered that Gu Qingyan had asked him to choose between being strangers with a marriage certificate or becoming a real couple. Luo Xinghe thought for a moment and felt there was really no big deal. He was uninterested in women, but he just couldn't get into the mood for dating. It always felt like a waste of time. Besides, with someone as pretty as Gu Qingyan, Luo Xinghe thought there was no need to choose the first option. I've decided. I'll choose the second option, he replied to Gu Qingyan after some thought. All right. But once you choose the second option, no more fooling around with other women. Millimeter, Luo Xinghe replied. After sending this, there was a long pause with no reply from the other side. Luo Xinghe put his phone down. When he looked up again, Jiang Chuan and Liu Ziming had already started discussing which female celebrity was their goddess. Jiang Chuan chose Yang Mi, while Liu Ziming was obsessed with Liu Qianxian. They even asked Luo Xinghe to choose, but Luo Xinghe shook his head. He used to like Liu Qianxian, but now he thought Ji Qingyan was pretty good. At least she was the prettiest girl he had seen in real life. Chapter 3, Dad Understands. The three of them chatted in the dormitory for half an hour, and the awkwardness that had been present at the beginning had faded somewhat. The atmosphere in the room had become much livelier. At that moment, the last person arrived. He was wearing a white short-sleeve shirt, carrying a urea bag over his shoulder, and dragging a battle-worn suitcase with one hand. The three of them exchanged glances and quickly rushed to help. As they tied it up, they learned that his name was Zhao Jiaxing. He came from a small village in a city in a neighboring province. Zhao Jiaxing was very grateful for the help from Luo Xinghe and the others and took out a handful of peanuts, still covered in dirt, from a plastic bag to share with them. The three of them awkwardly accepted the peanuts. Luo Xinghe took a bite, and the moisture and fragrance of the peanuts exploded in his mouth. This was completely different from the dry peanuts he usually ate. As they were tasting the peanuts, Luo Xinghe's phone suddenly rang. It was obviously a group message from their class group chat. At everyone, there will be a freshman party at 7 p.m. in the auditorium tonight. All freshmen must attend. The principal and several leaders will be there. Please be on time. Below, a dozen or so people replied that they had received the message. Jiang Chuan said excitedly, "We need to grab seats in the front row tonight. I want to see if this beautiful principal is really as pretty as they say." Liu Ziming nodded in agreement. The four of them sat in the dormitory for a while longer, then went to the cafeteria for dinner. By now, it was already 6 in the evening. Most of the freshmen had already arrived, and many students who had finished eating were already heading toward the auditorium. Luo Xinghe and his friends were no exception. As they walked, they could overhear discussions about the new principal. Some sophomores and juniors even came to the freshman party just to see the new principal in person. Is she really that beautiful? Luo Xinghe thought to himself. When they arrived at the auditorium, the first 2 rows were already full, but fortunately, there were still seats in the 3rd row. Jiang Chuan quickly led the group to sit down. By now, it was 6:30, and there was only half an hour left before the freshman party started. Ding! As the phone notification went off, Luo Xinghe opened WeChat again. The message was once again from Ji Qingyan. "Are you staying in the dormitory tonight? How about coming to my place to sleep?" Luo Xinghe felt a bit strange reading this message. Although they had legally become a couple yesterday, he still hadn't fully processed it psychologically. Instinctively, he thought about rejecting Ji Qingyan. But before he could type out a response, another message from Ji Qingyan popped up. "Okay, I'll pick you up at 8:30 p.m. Luo Xinghe froze for a moment when he saw this. He then deleted the message he had just typed. Instead, he sent a message to his father, "Dad, I won't be coming home to sleep tonight." Luo Jiang didn't reply, probably because he was busy. Luo Xinghe sent another message, "I'm not staying in the dormitory either. I'm going to sleep at Qingyang's place." Luo Jiang replied instantly, "Good kid, I understand. Go for it." Luo Xinghe. What does he understand? I didn't say anything. Luo Jiang sent another message, "Make sure to let me hold my grandson soon. Don't learn from your older brother and second sister." Luo Xinghe, "I'm just going to sleep at their place, not in the same room." Luo Jiang? You're already legally married, and you're still sleeping separately. If you try to sleep separately, I'll break your legs. Luo Xinghe was speechless. He quickly closed the chat with his father. Then he saw another message from Ji Qingyan. "You guys are going to the freshman party tonight, right? I've prepared a surprise for you." A surprise? What surprise? Luo Xinghe scratched his head, but he couldn't figure out what kind of surprise could be prepared for the freshman party. What he didn't know was that, at this moment, Ji Qingyan was already preparing her speech for the upcoming event in her office at the administrative building. For Ji Qingyan, she wanted to say more than just the formal speech. There was also something else, the first thing she planned to do since taking office. This matter was known only to her. Time passed quickly. At 7 p.m., the host took the microphone and walked onto the stage, announcing the beginning of the freshman party and the first item on the agenda: the principal's speech. At this, the students in the audience buzzed with excitement. Some even took out their cameras in advance, ready to take photos. Even Jiang Chuan raised his phone. Really? Luo Xinghe muttered softly. Jiang Chuan glanced at him and said, "So, you won't look at the pictures when I show them to you, but later, don't regret it after I've taken them." Luo Xinghe fell silent. He thought to himself, if I really wanted a picture of a beautiful woman, I could find tons of them online. Why bother taking one myself? As Luo Xinghe wondered, a woman dressed in professional attire walked slowly onto the stage. The spotlight hit her, accentuating her already striking figure, making it even more curvaceous. Oh! The crowd knew that the new principal was pretty, but they hadn't expected her to be this beautiful. Her delicate makeup, fair and smooth skin, and soft, rosy lips created a sharp contrast, causing some students to be completely stunned. If they didn't know better, they might have thought a celebrity was attending a press conference. Damn, she's even prettier than in the pictures online. Jiang Chuan immediately started snapping photos with his phone. Especially when Qingyan wore a black short skirt, revealing her long, toned legs, which were quite sexy. At that moment, Luo Xinghe, who recognized the person on stage as Qingyan, sat up straight in disbelief. Is it really Qingyan? Luo Xinghe rubbed his eyes in disbelief, hoping he was mistaken. But the person on stage became clearer the more he rubbed. It was Qingyan. Luo Xinghe slumped in his chair. Qingyan was the principal, which meant that the university he was attending was actually his wife's property. Was there anything more absurd than this? Hey, Jiang Chuan, thinking that Luo Xinghe was shocked by Qingyan's face, couldn't he speak for a moment? He reminded him, it's still not too late to take a photo now. Luo Xinghe ignored him. At this point, Qingyan had taken the microphone from the host but paused, scanning the crowd as if looking for someone. Is the principal looking at me? Liu Ziming said excitedly, is she looking this way? Jiang Chuan retorted, stop bragging. She's clearly looking at me. Go to hell, you're nothing special. You're nothing special. The two of them bickered, but Luo Xinghe secretly glanced at Qingyan. He caught her winking at him. He could only awkwardly smile in return. Then, Qingyan finally took the microphone, cleared her throat, and said, Dear students, faculty members, I am Qingyan, the new principal of Hechen College. Luo Xinghe didn't hear a word of what followed. He just stared at Qingyan on stage, watching her lips move, his mind buzzing. Why is my wife the principal of my university? Why is my university principal my wife? These two questions kept spinning in his mind. Chapter 4, Kiss Me. In order to demonstrate the school's commitment to serving students, after a unanimous discussion among the school leadership, we have decided that each school leader will be assigned a student secretary. The student secretary's responsibility is to relay students' opinions to the school leadership in a timely manner, and also to convey the leader's messages to the students. As for the student secretary's compensation, we will issue a special announcement, and we won't let anyone work for free. As the principal of the school, I have decided to appoint a temporary student secretary to test whether this reform is effective. Qingyan temporarily ad-libbed and introduced the position of student secretary, catching some of the leaders off guard. What do you mean unanimous discussion among school leadership? They had been kept in the dark about this whole matter. Once Qingyan made this announcement, the crowd below started buzzing. They had never heard of any university having a student secretary position. No one knew exactly what the job of the student secretary would entail, but many admired Qingyan's looks and enthusiastically raised their hands to become the temporary secretary. For them, whether or not they became the temporary secretary didn't matter. What mattered was being able to have close contact with Qingyan. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. At this moment, some of the heads of administrative clubs, especially the student union, suddenly started catching onto something. They felt that this temporary secretary was no simple role. After all, many of them had read some novels about officialdom. A principal's secretary, within the principal's office, is just a secretary, but outside the office, that person is essentially the principal. Moreover, with such a beautiful new principal, it seemed that this position was worth fighting for. So, they also raised their hands. As more and more people raised their hands, even Jiang Chuan and Liu Ziming, who were sitting next to Luo Xinghe, raised theirs. There were very few people who didn't raise their hands. At this point, Ji Qingyan on stage had yet to make her choice. She was waiting for Luo Xinghe to raise his hand. This reform was not specifically designed for Luo Xinghe, but the position of the temporary secretary was a role that only he could fill. Because Ji Qingyan wanted to be closer to Luo Xinghe's younger brother. Perhaps it was due to her own selfishness, but she couldn't help feeling that married couples should be closer to each other. But Luo Xinghe hesitated, and Ji Qingyan wondered if he didn't want to be her secretary. After waiting for a while, Luo Xinghe finally raised his hand, and Ji Qingyan's eyes brightened. She immediately took the microphone and pointed, "That student over there." "Me?" Jiang Chuan, who was sitting next to Luo Xinghe, thought it was him and widened his eyes in excitement. "Third row, fifth seat." The crowd silently counted in their minds, and then Luo Xinghe felt numerous gazes turning toward him. He lowered his head and stood up. "Yes, it's you. Come with me, I need to talk to you." In an instant, envious and jealous gazes were all on Luo Xinghe, making him feel a little embarrassed. Jiang Chuan, still excited, patted Luo Xinghe on the back. "Luo Xinghe, stay sharp, don't embarrass us. Our dorm's glory now depends on you." Luo Xinghe stood up from his seat and slowly walked toward the stage. The lighting technician had already smartly directed some lights onto him. However, Ji Qingyan noticed Luo Xinghe's discomfort. She handed the microphone back to their host and led Luo Xinghe to the backstage. The auditorium was bustling, but the backstage was surprisingly quiet. There were some temporary offices there. Ji Qingyan pushed Luo Xinghe into one of the rooms, closed the door, and then began speaking. "How do you feel?" Surprised. Ji Qingyan poured a glass of water from the water dispenser and handed it to Luo Xinghe. Luo Xinghe took the water, looked up as if to say something but didn't speak. "What did you want to say?" "Go ahead," Ji Qingyan said, sitting on a leather sofa, pulling Luo Xinghe's hand to sit beside her. "Qingyan, Luo Xinghe didn't know what to say. He felt very strange, and his heart was beating fast. Ji Qingyan smiled and puckered her lips, kissing Luo Xinghe on his left cheek. A faint lipstick mark was left on his face. Still nervous, Luo Xinghe, in disbelief, touched his cheek. This was the second time Ji Qingyan had kissed him of her own accord. The sudden kiss made his heart beat even faster. Even more nervous, Luo Xinghe replied. "Phut," Ji Qingyan ruffled Luo Xinghe's hair. "It's okay. We haven't seen each other much, but once you become my secretary, we can meet anytime at school." Luo Xinghe looked up at Ji Qingyan again, scratching his head as he said, "Qingyan, did you announce this system just so I could be your secretary?" Ji Qingyan lightly tapped Luo Xinghe's head with her right knuckle. "Naive. How could I create a system just for one person?" Luo Xinghe rubbed his forehead, realizing the truth. Ji Qingyan stood up and slowly paced around the office, arms crossed, a trace of sadness appearing in her large eyes. "My dad is gone, and I promised him I would manage the GU group well. But with such a big enterprise, how could there not be people watching me? Especially those uncles and relatives who helped my dad build his empire. They want to sideline me. Creating this system is just a small test. I want to see how the board of directors will react. Of course, it's also to fulfill a small wish I had when I was in school. I always thought the school leadership was too distant from the students and couldn't hear their voices. Plus, the existing clubs and organizations are too rigid and can't truly represent the students' opinions." Ji Qingyan spoke confidently, but Luo Xinghe, who had just entered university, only half understood and nodded along. He hadn't expected that there was such deep reasoning behind Ji Qingyan's decision. "But why did you hesitate for so long before raising your hand? Don't you support me?" Ji Qingyan squinted slightly, staring at Luo Xinghe. "Huh? No," Luo Xinghe quickly shook his head. "I definitely support you, I just didn't react in time. Also, I just want to get a degree from university, that's why." "Is that really the reason?" Ji Qingyan bent forward, placing her hands on her knees. Her shirt, unbuttoned at the top, now revealed not just her collarbones. Luo Xinghe couldn't help but glance, his face turning red instantly. Really? Luo Xinghe assured her. Good, Jiyu Qingyan said, since you support me, then prove it with your actions. Kiss me. Huh. Luo Xinghe was shocked. Jiyu Qingyan's initiative was completely unexpected. What's the matter? Don't want to kiss me? Or don't support me? No, Luo Xinghe scratched his head. He had never kissed any other girl before. Then kiss me. A real man doesn't hesitate. Jiyu Qingyan turned her face to the side. At that moment, Luo Xinghe could only hear the sound of his own rapidly beating heart in the strange silence of the room. Chapter 5, So Tender, So Smooth. Luo Xinghe swallowed, slowly approaching Jiyu Qingyan's face. In an instant, he smelled a fragrance that went straight to his lungs, a scent that came from Sister Qingyan herself. He tried to imitate the dramas he'd seen, puckering his lips gently, and gave a quick peck on Jiyu Qingyan's smooth face, like a dragonfly skimming the water. At that moment, he felt an inexplicable current rush through his body. So tender, so smooth. After kissing Jiyu Qingyan, Luo Xinghe stood still, continuously savoring the feeling that lingered. Jiyu Qingyan smiled and said, "All right, since you've kissed me, I'll take it as you supporting me." She patted Luo Xinghe's shoulder and told him, "Go outside for now, wait for me in the parking lot after the party, and I'll take you home." Luo Xinghe nodded blankly, then left the office, closed the door, walked through the hallway, and returned to his seat. At that moment, the vice principal was providing a supplementary explanation regarding Jiyu Qingyan's earlier speech. As soon as Jiang Chuan saw Luo Xinghe return, he immediately asked, "So, what did my goddess say to you?" Liu Ziming leaned in as well, staring at Luo Xinghe. Luo Xinghe thought back to the kiss he had just given to Sister Qingyan, his ears turning red. He muttered, "She didn't say much, just. Luo Xinghe couldn't find the right words. After all, what Jiyu Qingyan said to him wasn't something that could be mentioned in this setting. And now, it wasn't just Jiang Chuan and Liu Ziming who were listening. People from behind were leaning in, wanting to hear what Jiyu Qingyan had said to Luo Xinghe. Just what? Hurry up and tell us. Seeing Luo Xinghe stammering, Jiang Chuan was anxious, scratching his head. Luo Xinghe awkwardly smiled and said, "The principal seems to not want me to talk about it." Not even to us? Liu Ziming asked. Luo Xinghe just smiled. All right, so, did you get a close look at the principal? Is she pretty? That's nonsense. Liu Ziming elbowed Jiang Chuan. The principal's looks speak for themselves. You should ask about her figure. That's nonsense. Jiang Chuan retorted. Didn't you see her figure earlier? How could it be fake? How could it not be fake? Seeing the two of them bickering again, Luo Xinghe spoke up, "Stop arguing, the principal is very beautiful, and her figure is real." How do you know it's real? Liu Ziming asked. Because I. Luo Xinghe thought back to the moment when Sister Qingyan bent down, and the sight that flashed before him made his blood rush. He suddenly found himself with a nosebleed. Jiang Chuan and Liu Ziming's eyes widened as they watched Luo Xinghe quickly stand up and rush toward the bathroom. What happened to him? Jiang Chuan asked Liu Ziming. Liu Ziming shook his head. He just mentioned the principal's figure, and then, this happened. Could it be? You're talking nonsense. Don't you dare defile my goddess. Swoosh. In the bathroom, Luo Xinghe turned on the tap and carefully washed his face for a while before the nosebleed stopped. He looked up at himself in the mirror, trying to calm his breathing. Why does his heart race when he thinks of Sister Qingyan? Why does he miss her face after just a little while? Could this be love? But isn't it a bit too fast for love? Luo Xinghe lost in thought as the water continued to run. He took a deep breath, then turned off the tap and left. By then, the freshman party was nearing its end. In fact, the first night freshman party every year shouldn't really be called a freshman party, it should be called a leadership speech session. It's basically a speech from the school leaders congratulating everyone on entering university and encouraging them to study hard and not waste time. These events are rarely welcomed by the students. But this year, the auditorium was packed. Not only did the freshmen show up, but even some sophomores and juniors came to join in the excitement. This was all because the school had just hired a beautiful new principal. Xinghe, let us go. After Luo Xinghe sat down and meditated for a while, Jiang Chuan pulled him up. Liu Ziming said, "We're going out for a late-night snack. Are you coming?" Jiang Chuan asked. Liu Ziming and Zhao Jiaxing were already walking ahead. Luo Xinghe remembered that Sister Qingyan had said she would pick him up and immediately shook his head. Jiang Chuan put his arm around Luo Xinghe's shoulders, surprised. "Come on, buddy, our first gathering after the semester started, and you're not going." Luo Xinghe scratched his head. "Sorry, I have something to do." Jiang Chuan raised an eyebrow, looking closely at Luo Xinghe's face and whispered, "You don't have a girlfriend, do you?" "Huh? Who has a girlfriend?" Liu Ziming and Zhao Jiaxing, who were chatting ahead, immediately turned their heads and stared at Luo Xinghe. "Who has a girlfriend?" "Xiao Luo, you have a girlfriend?" Luo Xinghe hesitated for a moment. "Wife-girlfriend. So, it's not wrong to say he has a girlfriend, right?" "Well, you could say so," Luo Xinghe said awkwardly with a smile. "What do you mean, you could say so? If you have one, you have one. If not, you don't." "I have one," Luo Xinghe answered confidently this time. "Damn, when did this happen? Did you start dating early?" The three of them looked at him with a mix of envy and jealousy. Luo Xinghe shook his head. "No, it happened during the summer. My dad helped me find someone." "Your dad? He helped you find someone?" Hearing this, the three of them were stunned. They didn't expect that in modern society, arranged marriages still existed. The three of them had a ton of questions, but just then, Luo Xinghe's phone rang. "Sorry, I have to go now. I'll treat you guys some other time." Luo Xinghe waved his phone and quickly left. The three of them were left standing there, stunned. Isn't Xinghe a bit pitiful? His parents are a bit too controlling, don't you think? "Yeah," Zhao Jiaxing said, "in our village, everyone practices free love now. Didn't he expect Xinghe is still in an arranged marriage? We should talk to him when he comes back. He needs to be brave and fight for his own love." The three nodded in agreement. In front of the administrative building, at the parking lot. "Principal Gu, you should have discussed with us before making decisions like this. How can you just assign a student secretary like that?" "Yes, when old Gu was around, we had to discuss it. Qingyan, what you did is against the rules." Before Gu Qingyan could get in the car, a group of school leaders blocked her in front of the car, chattering away. For these uncles and elders, Gu Qingyan just smiled, nodding as she listened, saying nothing except for apologizing. The truth is, what she did wasn't exactly in line with regulations, but it was just a little test from her. She just wanted to see how these uncles and elders would react. Chapter 6, I'm afraid you'll live in another room. Soon, the school leaders, who had finished complaining, got in their cars and left. It seemed that they had nothing to say except blaming Gu Qingyan. But Gu Qingyan knew that things were not that simple. Qingyan College is just a small piece of the Gu enterprise, and it stands to reason that it does not need to be directly managed by the chairman. One of the main reasons why the former chairman Gu Qilong directly manages Qingyan College is that he wants to protect this pure land of university. Gu Qilong didn't intend to make money from Qingyan College. He went into education as a way to give back to society after he had a daughter, Gu Qingyan. Therefore, he would never allow his subordinates to turn Qingyan College into a means of making money. When Gu Qilong was alive, these people were honest, but after Gu Qilong passed away, they might not be honest anymore. This is also one of the reasons why Gu Qingyan decided to start the student secretary program. With students around them, they can always hear the real voices of the students, without being high and mighty. As for the other reason, it is Qingyan. Gu Qingyan put on her coat and was about to get in the car when the only school leader present called her. "Uncle Hua, what's the matter?" Hua Jie is Gu Qilong's old subordinate. Since Gu Qilong started working in education, he resigned from his position as vice president of the group and devoted himself to this industry. He is also one of the few elderly people that Gu Qingyan trusts. Hua Jie slowly stepped forward and patted Gu Qingyan on the shoulder. "Don't be too hasty in doing things. When you need to lurk, you need to wait for the opportunity. Do you understand?" "You mean I'm being too hasty?" Hua Jie shook his head. "I'm old, I can't take care of your affairs or my bastard son's affairs. I just want to do a good job in education, which is also worthy of my eldest brother." Jiyu Qingyang nodded, not quite understanding. By the way, I heard you got the marriage certificate. Jiyu Qingyang continued to nod. Whose child is it? It belongs to my uncle Luo, Jiyu Qingyang answered truthfully. Your uncle Luo, Luo Jiang. Luo Jiang's youngest son. Yes, Jiyu Qingyang replied. Jie was about to say something else when Luo Xinghe came over along the path. He had just arrived at the school, and it was not easy for him to find the administrative building. Xinghe. Jiyu Qingyang waved towards Luo Xinghe, and Luo Xinghe ran over immediately. Uncle Hua, Luo Xinghe called out. Jie is also Luo Jiang's good friend, so Luo Xinghe naturally knows him. Have you two got your marriage certificate? When Jie saw Luo Xinghe, whose face was still very young, he couldn't help being shocked. But the matter was done. Jie immediately took out a card from his pocket. Xinghe, take it. Jiyu Qingyang immediately realized what Jie meant and wanted to return the card. No, Uncle Hua, I don't need it. Take it. With the relationship between your two families, how can you not take your Uncle Hua's money? It's not much. If you don't take it, you'll be looking down on your Uncle Hua. Jie's words were so harsh that Jiyu Qingyang couldn't refuse any longer, so she had to say thank you Uncle Hua together with Luo Xinghe. Jie nodded, said goodbye to the two of them tactfully, and then turned and left. There was a cool breeze in the dark night. From time to time, the crazy laughter of college students could be heard not far away. Jiyu Qingyang patted her sports car and said to Luo Xinghe, get in. Oh, Luo Xinghe carefully sat in the passenger seat of Jiyu Qingyang, wanting to hand the card to Jiyu Qingyang. Jiyu Qingyang pushed the card back again. It's for you, just spend it. Isn't it for us? Luo Xinghe asked puzzledly. I have no shortage of money. Me neither. Luo Xinghe was about to say this when Jiyu Qingyang gave him some time to check how much money was in the card. Luo Xinghe was also a little curious, so he put the card away first. Jiyu Qingyang asked Luo Xinghe to fasten his seat belt, then stepped on the accelerator to the bottom. The Ferrari immediately made a terrifying roar, and then shot out like a sharp arrow. Herchin was a little quieter at night. On the way, Jiyu Qingyang kept thinking about what Jie meant by acting too hastily. Could this be another hidden meaning of the student secretary measure to monitor the actions of school leaders on her behalf? As a newcomer, how can she break the deadlock of solidified interests? The only way to break the deadlock is among the students. Is this too hasty? When Jiyu Qingyang drove the car home, Luo Xinghe had already fallen asleep in the passenger seat. It is obvious that reporting in today is very tiring, especially carrying luggage to the 6th floor, which is nothing short of torture for college students. Jiyu Qingyang unbuckled her seat belt and was about to wake up Luo Xinghe when she saw Luo Xinghe's sleeping face in the moonlight. She stretched out her scallion white fingers, gently touched Luo Xinghe's face, and said softly, "Brother, your face is quite beautiful." After saying that, she couldn't help but kiss Luo Xinghe on the cheek again. Poor Luo Xinghe, he didn't even know that he had another lipstick mark on his cheek. Xinghe. Jiyu Qingyang then shook Luo Xinghe. Luo Xinghe woke up from a deep sleep, his eyes still hazy. Here we are. Jiyu Qingyang carefully unbuckled his seat belt and nodded, "We're here." Luo Xinghe got out of the car and looked up at the villa with a courtyard of at least 200 square meters. They couldn't help but sigh that this villa was twice as big as their home. Moreover, it was a single-family house with a quiet surrounding environment. Luo Xinghe recognized at a glance that it was Yunhao Dijing in the suburbs of the city. "Let's go." Jiyu Qingyang parked the car in the garage, put her arm around Luo Xinghe's shoulders like a sister, and led him into the villa. Stepping into the living room of the villa, Luo Xinghe saw that from the high ceiling, a dazzling crystal chandelier cascaded down like a waterfall, illuminating the entire space with clarity and brightness. The floor is paved with finely textured marble tiles. In the center of the living room, there is a set of oversized beige leather sofas. In front of the sofas is a simple glass coffee table. The TV wall is made of a whole piece of natural jade, exuding a low-key and luxurious atmosphere. In a corner of the living room, there is a black grand piano. "Qingyang, you're back." The nanny came out to greet Jiyu Qingyang when she saw her come home. "Would you like to eat something?" Jiyu Qingyang shook her head and turned to look at Luo Xinghe. "What about you, do you want to eat?" Luo Xinghe also shook his head. Jiyu Qingyang saw that he was a little sleepy, so she asked, Aunt Zhao, is the bath water hot enough? Mother Zhao nodded, it's heated up. Jiyu Qingyang hugged Luo Xinghe again and slowly walked up the spiral staircase to the second floor. Jiyu Qingyang brought Luo Xinghe to a white double-door room and said to him, do you want to wash first or should I? Luo Xinghe was a little confused, can't we wash together? Hearing this, Jiyu Qingyang had a strange expression, you want to take a shower with me? No, I mean, among all these rooms, is there only one with a bathroom? After listening to Luo Xinghe's explanation, Jiyu Qingyang finally relaxed. Of course not, I asked Aunt Zhao to only heat the master bedroom. Because I'm afraid you'll live in another room and won't share the same room with me, said Jiyu Qingyang. Chapter 7, Although my brother is young, he has needs. Although Luo Xinghe had some random guesses in his mind, he still felt it was unreal when these words came out of Jiyu Qingyang's mouth. What's wrong? Jiyu Qingyang saw that Luo Xinghe was very surprised and slowly moved her face closer to his cheek. It seems that brother Xinghe really doesn't want to live with me. No. Being so close to sister Qingyang, Luo Xinghe truly felt like his heart was about to jump out of his throat. I mean, it's just, Luo Xinghe was so excited that he talked for a long time but couldn't utter a complete sentence. Okay, let's go inside and talk. Jiyu Qingyang didn't let Luo Xinghe continue talking, but directly pushed his shoulder and pushed him into their house, and locked the door of the master bedroom. As soon as he entered the master bedroom, Luo Xinghe smelled a rich lavender scent. What catches the eye is the European-style four-poster bed that occupies the center position. The bed curtains are made of light pink silk tulle, hanging down in layers. On the bed, there is a goose-down quilt embroidered with exquisite patterns and dozens of pillows. The end of the bed faces a huge projection wall. Below the projection wall is a low coffee table with a white marble tabletop. On it is a set of exquisite English afternoon tea sets. The porcelain is delicate and painted with delicate rose patterns. On the side close to the floor-to-ceiling window is a relaxing reading corner. There is an off-white French sofa and a unique floor lamp next to it. In the other corner of the room is a walk-in closet. 2 rows of tall and spacious wardrobes are made of dark brown walnut wood. The doors are inlaid with transparent glass, through which you can see all kinds of clothing hanging inside. From gorgeous evening gowns to simple everyday jeans and cotton t-shirts, each piece is carefully arranged and hung, and various jewelry boxes are placed on the island in the middle of the wardrobe. Although Luo Xinghe was from a wealthy family, he had never seen such a luxurious master bedroom. With such an area and decoration, it would probably take up space for an entire family of an ordinary family. Sit down, I'll find clothes and slippers for you. Seeing that Luo Xinghe was very reserved, Jiyu Qingyang pushed him directly to the edge of the bed. Luo Xinghe sat there uneasily, his eyes like a frightened rabbit, his hands twisted tightly together. Jiyu Qingyang walked into the cloakroom and opened the wardrobe in the corner. Luo Xinghe could clearly see that there were very few clothes inside. Of course, it's also because Jiyu Qingyang's wardrobe is too big, which makes the clothes put in it look very few. Luo Xinghe frowned because he saw some men's pajamas, and even underwear inside. Sister Qingyang already has another man, so why did she want to get married with me? Could it be that Sister Qingyang is a scumbag and marrying me is just a cover? Luo Xinghe stood up and wanted to speak but didn't open his mouth. What's wrong? Jiyu Qingyang turned her head and saw Luo Xinghe standing up. She couldn't help but ask, is the mattress uncomfortable? Luo Xinghe shook his head and said directly, Sister Qingyang, why do you have men's clothes in your house? Men's clothes. Jiyu Qingyang was stunned for a moment as she looked at Luo Xinghe, who was full of jealousy. Then she looked at the pajamas in her hand and couldn't help laughing. Xinghe, are you jealous? I didn't, I was just asking. Luo Xinghe, realizing that he had lost his composure, sat down on the edge of the bed again. Jiyu Qingyang explained, I asked my personal secretary to buy these. I just bought them yesterday. The cabinet just arrived today. If you don't believe me, smell it. Jiyu Qingyang handed the pajamas to Luo Xinghe's nose. As soon as Luo Xinghe took a breath, he could smell the special smell of new clothes, even if it had been washed once. So that's how it is, Luo Xinghe's frown relaxed. Jiyu Qingyang threw the new pajamas on the bed. Here, stop thinking about it, go take a shower and then change. Oh, by the way, there are also slippers. Jiu Qingyang ran to the shoe cabinet at the door of the master bedroom and took out a pair of black slippers. Can I wash first? Luo Xinghe asked. Well, Jiu Qingyang said playfully, do you still want me to join you? Then I'll take off my clothes. No, 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 Luo Xinghe immediately picked up his pajamas, changed into slippers and ran to the bathroom. If I really take a bath with Sister Qingyang, it won't be as simple as taking a bath. Bang! Luo Xinghe entered the bathroom and closed the door. Jiu Qingyang heard the faint sound of running water. She smiled helplessly. It turned out that Brother Xinghe was still very immature. Then, Jiu Qingyang picked up the shoes that Luo Xinghe had thrown away on the ground, sprayed them with antibacterial spray, and put them in the shoe cabinet. After doing all this, Jiu Qingyang's heart began to beat faster. Although my younger brother is very young, he always has needs. Jiu Qingyang had never done such a thing before. At most, she and her roommate secretly watched it and blushed when they were in school. She slowly walked to the table where her bag was placed, took out 2 small cubes from the innermost compartment, and secretly stuffed them under the pillow. Luo Xinghe was not prepared for these things, so she had to prepare for them. After all, the group is not stable yet, so she cannot consider having children. After finishing all this, she sat on the recliner in front of the floor-to-ceiling window and opened WeChat on her mobile phone. As soon as I opened it, I saw the heated discussion in her university dormitory group. White doves don't kiss crows, Qingyang, what's going on? Please reply if you get it. Happiness and joy, did you succeed? Our Qingyang is no longer an unwanted girl. The first person to eat, stop shouting, Qingyang is busy now, how can she have time to chat with us, raised eyebrows. JPG. Seeing that the 3 people were talking in a more and more frivolous manner, Jiu Qingyang couldn't help but send a message. Qingyang, who is spreading rumors about me again? The first person who was eating, who is talking? White doves don't kiss crows, oh my god, Qingyang, are you done? Happiness and joy, my brother is not very good at fighting. Qingyang, get lost, what are you all thinking about? It's not good at all. The first person who ate the rice said, really? I don't believe it. White doves don't kiss crows, don't believe it +1. Happiness, what's the matter, are you shy? Qingyang, we just came back, and he went to take a shower. Okay, I won't talk to you anymore. Stop. Tell us more. Jiu Qingyang ignored the complaints in the group and simply turned off her phone. In the bathroom, Luo Xinghe was applying shower gel. Normally, he liked to hum songs while taking a bath, but now at Sister Qingyan's house, he felt even more embarrassed to hum songs. Besides, he always took a shower at home, but now he suddenly had to take a bath in a bathtub, which made Luo Xinghe feel a little uncomfortable. The main reason is that Jamar set the water temperature too high. Maybe this water temperature is just right for girls to wash, but for him, it feels a bit hot. After rinsing off the shower gel bubbles on his body, Luo Xinghe walked out of the bathtub. Just as he was about to get a towel to wipe himself off, he unexpectedly stepped on the shower gel bubbles that had fallen on the ground. As a result, he slipped and fell directly to the ground. Chapter 8, The Boy Can't Wait. A loud thud startled Jiu Qingyang, who was working outside the door. Luo Xinghe in the bathroom was grimacing and preparing to get up, but he felt a sharp pain in his ankle. Damn, my foot was twisted, Luo Xinghe said while half sitting on the ground. Bang bang bang. Jiu Qingyang heard the noise and patted the bathroom door. Xinghe, what's wrong with you? Are you okay? I'm fine, Luo Xinghe shouted, I just slipped and twisted my ankle. Twisted your ankle? Jiu Qingyang, who was outside the door, became worried when she heard this. She opened the bathroom door in a hurry and saw Luo Xinghe sitting naked on the ground. Sister Qingyang, how did you come in? Luo Xinghe was a little surprised. Jiu Qingyang picked up the towels on the shelf, put one on Luo Xinghe's legs, and used the other to wipe his head. We both got the marriage certificate, are you still afraid of your sister seeing it? Jiu Qingyang carefully helped Luo Xinghe dry his head while asking, does it hurt? Can you walk now? Luo Xinghe exerted a little force on his feet, and he immediately felt severe pain. Luo Xinghe shook his head. Jiu Qingyang checked Luo Xinghe's ankle, then helped him wipe the water droplets off his body, and then let Luo Xinghe wipe the rest by himself. She went out to call the doctor. During this time, Luo Xinghe put on his pajamas with great difficulty. After all, sitting naked in front of Sister Qingyan, he felt even more shy. After finishing the call, Qingyan turned around and half knelt on the ground. The doctor will be here soon, just bear with it for a while. Qingyan held Luo Xinghe's arm and said, I'll help you to the bed. Luo Xinghe nodded, then pressed his hands on the edge of the bathtub, and with the two of them working together, Luo Xinghe finally stood up. But the sprained foot couldn't touch the ground, so Qingyan could only hold one of Luo Xinghe's arms, and the two of them walked out of the bathroom carefully. Qingyan put him on the bed, but gravity also knocked him down on the bed. So the two of them were face to face, breathing together. Luo Xinghe blinked, feeling the softness of Qingyan's body. Qingyan quickly sat up and smoothed her messy hair with her hand. Looking at the dazed Luo Xinghe, Qingyan couldn't help but laugh. Sister Qingyan, what are you laughing at? It's so cute to laugh at your stupidity. You can even sprain your ankle while taking a shower. Luo Xinghe was even more embarrassed. This was an accident. I didn't strike the right balance. 10 minutes later, the doctor came to check on Luo Xinghe's injury. Fortunately, it was only a minor sprain. So the doctor only prescribed some medicine for Luo Xinghe's injuries, and told him not to get out of bed and walk around for 3 days unless there was something special. More importantly, he should not do any strenuous exercise, such as running or basketball. Fortunately, Luo Xinghe is rather lazy and doesn't really like sports, so whether or not he can exercise doesn't matter to him. But not being allowed to get out of bed and walk for 3 days is a bit difficult for him. After all, he had just started school and there were still many things to do at school. Qingyan asked Zhao Ma to send the doctor away, and she took out the medicine box at home and found the cotton swab from it. I'll do it myself, Luo Xinghe said when he saw Sister Qingyan was going to help him apply medicine. Qingyan shook her head, just sit still and don't move. She picked up the cotton swab, opened the ointment for bruises and sprains, soaked the entire cotton swab in the ointment, then aimed it at Luo Xinghe's swollen ankle, gently drew circles, and applied it bit by bit. Sitting on the bed, Luo Xinghe felt a cool breeze at his ankles. Is the strength I used okay? Qingyan asked. It's quite comfortable, Luo Xinghe replied. Qingyan nodded and continued to apply the ointment, applying it on Luo Xinghe's ankle little by little. Luo Xinghe stared blankly at Sister Qingyan, who was concentrating on her ankle and applying the medicine meticulously. Her long black hair was scattered behind her. Luo Xinghe suddenly felt that Sister Qingyan was even more beautiful. So, Luo Xinghe couldn't help himself and slowly approached Qingyan and pecked her on the face. Qingyan, who was applying medicine to Luo Xinghe, felt the warmth on her face and turned her head to look at Luo Xinghe. You kissed me. Luo Xinghe blushed a little and lowered his head, not daring to look at Qingyan. Qingyan smiled and touched Luo Xinghe's head. Xinghe, there's no need to be so shy with your sister. Just kiss if you want. We are legal. Luo Xinghe still didn't say anything. So Qingyan put down the cotton swab in her hand and directly lifted Luo Xinghe's chin with her hand so that they could look into each other's eyes. Luo Xinghe's heart began to beat wildly for no reason again. Do you like your sister? Qingyan asked softly. Luo Xinghe nodded. I like it. Then kiss me. Qingyan ordered softly, then closed her eyes and waited for Luo Xinghe to kiss her lips. Looking at Sister Qingyan's fair face and tender red lips, Luo Xinghe couldn't help swallowing. He gasped for breath, and then impulsively kissed her. The moment their lips touched, Luo Xinghe suddenly felt as if his heartbeat stopped. Feeling the warmth on my lips, love surged up like a flood. His hands slowly wrapped around Qingyan's waist, and with a gentle hug, he held Qingyan in his arms. Qingyan's whole body trembled, and 2 tears flowed uncontrollably from the corners of her eyes. Her mother passed away when she was very young, and Qingyan was very busy with work, so he often left her with a nanny. Qingyan was very sensible and never delayed Qingyan's work. After she went to college and could video chat with her father, she finally became close to him. She didn't expect her father to die so early. Qingyan had no time to grieve, so she had to obey her father's last wish and inherit the group's business. But her heart seemed to have turned to stone since her father's death. There were no more waves. Until just now, until the moment Luo Xinghe kissed her, she suddenly felt her heart beating violently. This is the best evidence that she is still alive. She originally wanted to find someone to marry, but now everything seems different. Sure enough, when Luo Xinghe kissed her, his two hands moved as if on automatic positioning, one upwards and the other downwards. When she was about to touch the key position, Qingyan held Luo Xinghe's hand tightly. Her eyes flickered and she looked a little flustered. The young man was as impatient as a wolf or a tiger. Qingyan asked softly, "Is your foot okay?" Luo Xinghe shook his head and quickly put his arm around Qingyan's shoulders again. In the midst of the intense discussion, Qingyan called out again, "Wait a moment. Sister Qingyan, what happened again?" Qingyan poked her head out from under the quilt. She reached under the pillow and took out two small squares and handed them to Luo Xinghe. "Yes. Here you go." Chapter 9, 100,000 yuan, spent before dinner. 9.2, at 6:30 in the morning, the weather turned from cloudy to sunny. Ding ding, ding ding. Qingyan, who was sleeping while holding Luo Xinghe, reached out for the mobile phone beside the bed. After turning off her phone, she yawned, gently took away Luo Xinghe's hand on her lower abdomen, and slowly sat up. Then Qingyan picked up a white hairband from the bedside table and tied her hair up. She put on her slippers, walked quietly to the bathroom and washed up, then she quietly opened the door and went downstairs. Downstairs, Aunt Zhao had already prepared breakfast and placed it on the table. She was twisting her body and stretching her muscles in front of the floor-to-ceiling window on the first floor. "Morning, Aunt Zhao." Qingyan called out, and Zhaomar immediately stopped moving, turned around and asked, "Qingyan, who went upstairs with you last night?" Qingyan stared at Zhaomar. About 5 years ago, Zhaomar had already come to work at their house. Zhaomar is a hardworking and straightforward person. Over time, she has become half a family member. The only bad thing about him is that he is always willing to pry into other people's privacy. When Mother Zhao saw Qingyan's expression, she knew she shouldn't ask this question. Seeing that Zhaomar realized her problem, Qingyan said, "Zhaomar, why don't you sit down and eat something too?" No, Zhaomar refused. "I've already eaten. There aren't many vegetables left at home. I'll go to the morning market to buy some." Qingyan nodded, told Zhaomar to go and come back early, then lowered her head and drank the porridge. 10 minutes later, after eating a bowl of white porridge and a few side dishes, Qingyan felt full. Although she has eaten a lot of meat and fish, she still feels more comfortable drinking a bowl of white porridge in the morning. She leaned back in her chair, then took out her work phone, found her secretary's WeChat, and sent a message, "Please help me find out who Xinghe's instructor is and send it to me in 5 minutes." A few seconds later, the secretary replied with a "received." Qingyan was married, and few people knew about it, except for a few of her good classmates and her secretary. Even her mother Zhao at home was unaware of it. She doesn't want to spread the news now, because Qingyan doesn't want to involve Luo Xinghe in the group. After all, she didn't know what tricks those old guys would use. Ding dong. Within 2 minutes, the secretary found Luo Xinghe's counselor. "If you want to know the answer, just go to the backstage and check. Principal Gu, this is Counselor Luo Xinghe's personal information and contact information." "Okay," Qingyan replied, "please tell her counselor that Luo Xinghe is injured these 3 days and cannot go to school." The secretary hesitated for a moment and replied to Qingyan cautiously, "Principal Gu, are you sure you want me to tell her? In this case, will the counselor guess your relationship with Luo Xinghe?" Qingyan replied, "It's okay, she can't guess it." Secretary, "Okay." Qingyan, also, let Vice Principal Hua take care of the daily affairs of the school today. I will not go to school. I have to go to the group headquarters. Secretary, I understand, Principal Gu, don't worry. After explaining their work, Qingyan turned off her cell phone, then brought out a tray from the kitchen, served Luo Xinghe a large bowl of white porridge, and a small plate with a side dish, which she then carefully brought upstairs. Pushing open the door and entering the bedroom, Qingyan found that Luo Xinghe was still sleeping soundly. She put the dinner plate on the table, gently lifted the corner of the quilt, and checked the swelling of Luo Xinghe's ankle. Although Luo Xinghe's feet felt much lighter, they were still a little swollen. Qingyan opened the ointment, took out a cotton swab, and began to apply the ointment to Luo Xinghe little by little. Luo Xinghe, who was sleeping, suddenly felt his feet getting cold. He subconsciously tried to cover the quilt with his hands, but it was impossible. No matter how he covered himself, it seemed like someone was constantly helping him to lift the quilt. So Luo Xinghe opened his eyes in horror. He straightened up and saw Ji Qingyan helping him apply medicine. Looking around, he remembered that he slept at Sister Qingyan's house last night, and that he and Sister Qingyan. Luo Xinghe blushed again when he thought of this. Woke up. Ji Qingyan pointed to the porridge on the table as if nothing had happened and said, "Eat something later. I have already asked your counselor for leave. You don't have to go to school for the next 3 days. There is a crutch in the guest bedroom. It was used by my father when he broke his bone. I'll get it for you later," Ji Qingyan instructed. "And if you need anything else, just call Aunt Zhao. Here, this is the TV remote control. If you want to watch TV, just turn it on." Oh, Luo Xinghe accepted the information in a daze. "Okay, I've applied the medicine for you." Ji Qingyan stood up and went to the cloakroom to get a light blue shirt and a pair of slim-fitting suit pants. Ji Qingyan changed her clothes and tied a belt of a well-known brand around her waist. Without the cover of the loose pajamas, Ji Qingyan's figure was perfectly revealed. "Then I'm going to work." Ji Qingyan put on a pair of high heels that were not too high. Luo Xinghe nodded. Ji Qingyan kissed Luo Xinghe on the cheek again, said goodbye to him, then closed the door of the master bedroom and went downstairs. For a moment, Luo Xinghe was the only one left in the huge room. He lifted the quilt and looked at his ankle. Sister Qingyan applied the medicine very evenly, and it was obvious that she applied it drop by drop carefully. Luo Xinghe half leaned on the bed, staring at the ceiling. He didn't know how lucky he was to have a wife like Sister Qingyan out of nowhere. She is beautiful and has a great figure. She is gentle and considerate, and is also a rare rich woman. The key is that Sister Qingyan took the initiative. Luo Xinghe grinned, and at this moment, Ji Qingyan, who came in with a cane, pushed open the door of the master bedroom. "What are you laughing at?" Ji Qingyan asked. It's okay," Luo Xinghe quickly put away his big teeth. Ji Qingyan leaned the crutch against the wall. "Here, I forgot to bring you a crutch just now. If you want to get out of bed, use this. Don't use too much force on your sprained foot. If you're fine, don't get out of bed. You can play with your phone or sleep on the bed. Whether you have money or not, if you want to play games, you can spend money if you want. Having fun is the most important thing." Yes, Luo Xinghe said awkwardly. Although he has never lacked money since he was a child, if he dared to spend money on the game, he would definitely be beaten by his father. Now Sister Qingyan actually allowed him to recharge, which made Luo Xinghe a little uncomfortable. Ji Qingyan took out a cell phone from his suit trouser pocket and quickly transferred 100,000 yuan to Luo Xinghe. "You didn't take anything I gave you last time. I'll make sure you take it this time. I'll spend it all before I get home at night, no matter where you spend it or what game you charge it on. If I find out you haven't spent it all, hee." Ji Qingyan raised her fist. Chapter 10, Worrying about Spending Money. Sister Qingyan went to work. It seemed that Zhao's mother was not at home either, and Luo Xinghe was the only one left at home. He opened WeChat and found a new contact who wanted to add him. Luo Xinghe clicked on it and saw the note clearly saying, "I am your counselor." Luo Xinghe hurriedly confirmed it on WeChat. It was also his fault that he was so busy yesterday that he forgot about it and didn't even add the counselor's WeChat. "Counselor Zhu, I heard you sprained your ankle, are you okay?" Luo Xinghe replied, "It's okay, instructor, you can come to school after 2 days of rest." "Counselor Zhu, don't worry, come back after you have rested. I'll ask Jiang Chuan and others to help you keep an eye on the school affairs." Luo Xinghe, "Thank you, teacher." The other party was silent for a moment, and then asked cautiously, "What is your relationship with the principal?" "Me and the principal?" Luo Xinghe was stunned. He didn't know where the counselor got the news from, but he didn't know what Sister Qingyan thought, so he didn't dare to say anything. He had to lie and said, "It doesn't matter, counselor." "Counselor Zhu, Xinghe, you don't treat the counselor as your own person. Are you stupid to be a counselor? If you have no relationship with the principal, would the principal send his secretary to ask for leave for you at 7 o'clock in the morning?" So it was Sister Qingyan who asked her secretary to ask for leave for her? Luo Xinghe didn't know these inside stories yet, so he didn't know how to respond to the counselor for the time being. Unexpectedly, the counselor guessed on her own, is Jiyu Qingyan your sister, cousin or cousin? Luo Xinghe, are? It is impossible to say now that I have nothing to do with Sister Qingyan. The counselor has just explained the reasons. If it didn't matter, would Sister Qingyan ask her secretary to ask for leave for her early in the morning? But he couldn't say it clearly, because Luo Xinghe didn't know whether saying it clearly would put Sister Qingyan in a passive position, so he could only send a questioning "are?" Next, no matter what the counselor said or guessed, Luo Xinghe did not respond. He closed the chat interface with the counselor and left a message to Jiyu Qingyan, Sister Qingyan, my counselor asked me what our relationship is. How should I answer? Unexpectedly, Jiyu Qingyan, who was at work, could reply in seconds, no need to answer, someone will handle it. Okay, Luo Xinghe set the counselor's messages to not remind him her at ease. This way, there won't be those annoying red dots. How much have you spent the money I asked you to spend? Jiyu Qingyan continued in the message. I haven't started painting yet, I feel wrong. JPG. Quick flower, angry fist. JPG. Alas, Luo Xinghe sighed. He never expected that one day spending money would become a problem. He thought about it and created a dormitory group with Jiang Chuan, Liu Ziming and Zhao Jiaxing, named Dad and his sons. Jiang Chuan. Zhao Jiaxing? Liu Ziming, I'm in the morning class, who the hell came up with this name? Immediately afterwards, Luo Xinghe sent a lucky red packet of 200 yuan to the group. In less than a second, the three people had grabbed all the red envelopes. Liu Ziming, 101 point for 3 yuan, the best luck. Zhao Jiaxing, 92.11 yuan. Jiang Chuan, 6 point for 6 yuan. Jiang Chuan. Liu Ziming, Dad. Zhao Jiaxing, Dad +1. Seeing the three people's expressions change at the speed of light, Luo Xinghe burst out laughing. Jiang Chuan, there is something fishy going on. Liu Ziming, I can't help it. My luck is just so good. Luo Xinghe, brothers, I sprained my ankle. I'm counting on you to take care of school these 2 days. Zhao Jiaxing, how did you sprain your ankle? Jiang Chuan, the military training uniforms will be distributed later. I'll get them back for you. Liu Ziming, at Jiang Chuan, how can you talk like that? Please bring back the military training uniform for my dad. Jiang Chuan, you little bastard, you only showed this kind of expression for 100 yuan. Luo Xinghe, designated red envelope. Jiang Chuan. Jiang Chuan has received the designated red envelope. There are 100 yuan in it. Jiang Chuan, Dad. Luo Xinghe leaned against the pillow and smiled from ear to ear. After knowing that he no longer had to worry about school matters, Luo Xinghe quickly exited the chat interface with his roommate. After all, you can't send out too many red envelopes. After thinking about it, Luo Xinghe opened the pesticide again. Li Feipen, a close friend in high school, dreams of getting a glory crystal in exchange for an infinite hurricane. Unfortunately, he had a bad complexion, and every time he saved up his food money to go home and draw a lottery, he never won. This wish has not been realized until now. So Luo Xinghe directly entered Li Feipen's account and password, and unexpectedly, he directly pushed Li Feipen's ranking to the top. Li Feipen immediately bombarded her with messages on WeChat, password. This building is sheltered from the wind. What a beast. My ranking. Luo Xinghe ignored all of them, clicked surrender directly, and then recharged 2,000 yuan worth of points into his account. Luo Xinghe, go up. Li Feipen, I'm on the 8th. I'm finally going to be promoted to king, you give me your account. Luo Xinghe, you go in first. Li Feipen, what if I log in first? I won't be scolded if I log in first. In another university, when he saw 20,000 more points in his account, he was suddenly stunned. He counted the numbers 3 times before he dared to confirm. Li Feipen, brother Xinghe, didn't your father forbid you to charge the game? Luo Xinghe, just do it. Li Feipen, if you don't abandon me, I will become your foster father. Luo Xinghe quit the chat and spent another 2,000. It feels so good to spend money. But it's still a bit too slow. And to be honest, Luo Xinghe himself doesn't have the habit of spending money in the game. So he turned around and opened the shopping platform. Enter the keyword, women's jewelry. Start choosing beautiful jewelry from a large number of products. Luo Xinghe knew that Sister Qingyan definitely had no shortage of jewelry. But he felt that the meaning of what he bought was different from what she bought herself. Although he spent Sister Qingyan's money, it was also a token of his love. With this mentality, Luo Xinghe spent a long time shopping on their website before he finally picked out a necklace. The price is 69999. Without any hesitation, I placed the order directly. After a while, the merchant actually called me directly. Hello, is the gemstone necklace you ordered on the platform delayed? This is a custom order. If you are late, you can still cancel the order. Once the order is customized, we will not support cancellations. Luo Xinghe replied, it's not late, please hurry up, I need it urgently. Okay, then we will expedite the customization for you. Luo Xinghe agreed and then hung up the phone. He calculated in his mind that he had spent 72,300 now. There are still 27,700 left to spend. Well, when did spending money become so stressful? Luo Xinghe collapsed on Ji Qingyan's big bed, thinking about how to spend the money next. Chapter 11, Help Sister Qingyan Take Off Her Clothes. P.S. It is the last week of the review period and the updates are unstable. Dear readers, please bear with us. But the money was eventually spent. With the remaining money, Luo Xinghe directly subscribed to annual VIP subscriptions for all video software. I even paid an annual fee for the childhood masterpiece, Seer. As for the rest, Luo Xinghe recharged them all into gold bricks, and when the Eternal Salvation boxes returned to the factory, he bought 5 red skins in one fell swoop. After this series of spending, he finally completed his spending mission at 7 o'clock in the afternoon. Luo Xinghe stretched on the bed and went to the toilet with crutches. When Jiaomar brought him a bowl of hot tomato and egg noodles, Luo Xinghe said thank you to Jiaomar, and Jiaomar smiled but sat down beside the bed. Xiao He, Jiaomar asked, what is your relationship with Qingyan? Auntie Jiao, why are you asking this? Luo Xinghe replied while putting noodles into his mouth. What can I do? I'm just curious. Mother Jiao raised her head and said slowly, Qingyan looks quite domineering, but she is actually a good child. Look, Jiao's mother took out her cell phone and opened a photo. This is my grandson's stroller, which Qingyan brought back from abroad. This child is kind to me and treats me like one of her own, so naturally I care about her. She has never brought a man home before. She brought you home yesterday. I was surprised. I have never heard that Qingyan has a younger brother. Then I saw you two sleeping in the same bedroom, and I understood. Aunt Jiao, Luo Xinghe didn't know what to say. It's okay, Jiaomar continued, I just want to say that Qingyan is a good child. I think you are a good child too. You should be nicer to Qingyan. Luo Xinghe didn't react and just drank the soup. After a while, Luo Xinghe finished the soup, and Aunt Jiao took the bowl and went downstairs. Another 2 hours passed before Luo Xinghe heard the sound of doors opening and closing. Then, there was the sound of high heels coming up the stairs. Xinghe. Ji Qingyan opened the door of the master bedroom and smiled at Luo Xinghe. As soon as Luo Xinghe saw Ji Qingyang's red face, he knew she had been drinking. Sister Qingyan, are you okay? Ji Qingyang shook her head and waved to Luo Xinghe. Xinghe, come here. Luo Xinghe slowly sat down next to Ji Qingyang, and Ji Qingyang leaned her head on Luo Xinghe's shoulder. Drunk, Ji Qingyan's voice began to become soft and sticky. Do you regret marrying my sister? Luo Xinghe was stunned for a moment. Actually, there is nothing to regret. Before he met Ji Qingyang, he had been moved at times, but he was only attracted to others. Luo Xinghe believes in love, but doesn't believe that he will have love. Although he was tempted, he never took any action and he thought he would continue to live like this. Until Sister Qingyan appeared. Thinking of this, Luo Xinghe shook his head decisively. Sister Qingyan, I don't regret it. My sister is 7 years older than you. But I can't see it. What can't you see? I can't tell you're 7 years older than me. I think you're prettier than all my classmates. Hearing this, Ji Qingyang smiled. She raised her head and pinched Luo Xinghe's face. Little rascal, you only know how to lie to your sister, right? Looking at Ji Qingyan's rosy face, Luo Xinghe shook his head. No, I'm telling the truth. Ji Qingyang looked into Luo Xinghe's eyes and suddenly kissed him. Luo Xinghe was caught off guard, but he quickly responded to Ji Qingyang. The two of them felt each other's warm lips and were reluctant to separate for a long time. It was not until Zhao Ma prepared the sobering soup and knocked on the door that Ji Qingyang let go of Luo Xinghe's hand. She opened the door and brought in the sobering soup, then Ji Qingyang proudly stuffed the bowl and spoon into Luo Xinghe's hands. "Feed me." "Oh, okay." Luo Xinghe held the bowl in one hand and the spoon in the other, feeding Ji Qingyang little by little. Ji Qingyang drank the sobering soup and smiled at Luo Xinghe from time to time. Luo Xinghe felt that sister Ji Qingyang seemed even cuter after drinking. Just like that, after Luo Xinghe fed Ji Qingyang the sobering soup bit by bit, Ji Qingyang took off her high heels by herself and collapsed on the big bed. Luo Xinghe quickly placed the bowl beside the bed, then shook Ji Qingyang. "Sister Qingyang, you have to take off your clothes before going to bed." Tilde, Ji Qingyang shook her body like a spoiled child. The after effects of the alcohol had reached their peak at this point. She said directly, "Xinghe, help me take it off." "I'd better help you take it off, but that's not a good idea." Luo Xinghe was a little hesitant. Ji Qingyang exposed it directly. "Why didn't you tell your sister last night? I feel bad now." "No," Luo Xinghe swallowed his saliva and said, I'm afraid." "What are you afraid of?" Ji Qingyang opened her eyes, her soft hair scattered on the bed like blooming flowers. She reached out and unbuttoned the top two buttons of her light blue shirt. The black shoulder straps are faintly visible at the clear collarbone. "Here. That's it." Ji Qingyang demonstrated to Luo Xinghe step by step. When Luo Xinghe saw that sister Qingyang didn't care, what else did he care about? So he directly unbuttoned the remaining buttons of Ji Qingyang's clothes. He gently held Ji Qingyang's neck with his hands and took off her shirt. At this moment, Ji Qingyang suddenly stretched out her green hand and placed it on Luo Xinghe's heart. Luo Xinghe asked in surprise, "Sister Qingyang, what are you doing?" Ji Qingyang put her other hand to her mouth, silencing me. "Sure. Stop making noise. I'm listening to see how fast your heart is beating." Why do I have to listen to this?" Luo Xinghe naturally knew that his heart was beating like a drum now. After all, sister Qingyang was so beautiful. "Stupid, of course it depends on whether you have feelings for me." Ji Qingyang sat up in black underwear, with her waist and abdomen clearly visible. "Words can lie, but heartbeats can't lie." "Fortunately, you didn't lie to your sister." Ji Qingyang picked up a rubber band on the bedside table and tied her hair up under Luo Xinghe's gaze. Then she put on her slippers, walked slowly to the cloakroom, and changed into a set of black pajamas. Luo Xinghe saw that Ji Qingyang's steps were brisk and her thoughts were clear, so she didn't look like she was drunk. But the smell of alcohol on Ji Qingyang's body couldn't lie. She must have been drinking. Ji Qingyang sat down on the bed again and said softly, "Little idiot, can this little bit of wine make me drunk? If a businessman can't drink, it will be difficult to do business." Luo Xinghe nodded, not quite understanding. "How's it going? Have you spent all the 100,000 yuan my sister gave you?" "It's over," Luo Xinghe replied. Ji Qingyang touched Luo Xinghe's head again. "I'll give you another 100,000 tomorrow, and keep spending it." No. Luo Xinghe refused. "Sister Qingyang, I don't have such a strong desire to spend money, you don't have to do this." Ji Qingyang shook her head. "No, how can a man not know how to spend money? Our Xinghe must learn how to spend money. Money is just a tool for you to achieve your own goals, you know? My goal is to make you happy. How could I bear to let my husband be inferior to others?" Chapter 12, Returning to School After Recovery. In the next 2 days, Luo Xinghe started a boring life of spending money. He has almost all the skins for many of his game accounts, and with the help of spending money, his gaming performance has improved by leaps and bounds. Luo Xinghe couldn't help but sigh that the presence or absence of skins has a huge impact on the game. He even logged into Steam and placed orders for all the games he was interested in, such as Black Myth, 3 Men and a Dog, Red Dead Redemption, etc. The moment the goods were put into storage, Luo Xinghe felt extremely satisfied. Because the moment you buy the game is the happiest moment. But such days became boring after a long time. Fortunately, his feet gradually regained the ability to walk. Although he still limped, he was able to walk without crutches by the next evening. At the end of the 3rd day, Luo Xinghe's foot had almost recovered. Even though there was still some pain, it was not serious. So on the morning of the 4th day, he prepared to go to school. He hadn't been to school for the first 3 days and he was still a little nervous. Moreover, today is the beginning of the military training for freshmen. For an obedient boy like Luo Xinghe, it is impossible to miss it. After having breakfast at Sister Qingyan's house, he got in the driver's car and went to school. Ji Qingyan did not go to school. She went to the group first, but Ji Qingyan still asked Luo Xinghe to exercise less because his foot had not fully healed yet. Ji Qingyan also said that she could call her if necessary and that she could skip the military training. Luo Xinghe nodded in agreement. 10 minutes later, the driver dropped Luo Xinghe off at the gate of Qingyan College. Luo Xinghe was ready to get off the car. Unexpectedly, the driver drove the car straight in. Not only did the security guard not stop him, but he also smiled at the driver. But the security guard didn't notice that the person sitting in the back was not the principal, but Luo Xinghe. The driver took him to the dormitory building with ease and then left. Luo Xinghe said thank you several times before slowly returning to the dormitory. When I arrived at the dormitory and opened the door, Jiang Chuan was still sleeping. Zhao Jiaxing was already sitting at the table, holding his freshman year textbooks and starting to study on his own. As for Liu Ziming, he should have gone for a morning run. Because at the beginning, Liu Ziming told them that he had the habit of jogging in the morning. Jiang Chuan was half asleep, but when he looked up and saw Luo Xinghe coming in, he immediately woke up. Hey, you're back. How's your foot? Is it okay? It's okay. Luo Xinghe walked slowly into the dormitory. He clearly saw two brand new military training uniforms stacked on his bed. Oh, Jiang Chuan explained as he put on his clothes, I brought it back for you. Military training will start at 8 o'clock this morning. Remember to change into it later. Okay, Luo Xinghe sat on the edge of the bed, took off his clothes, and prepared to change into military training clothes. Jiang Chuan asked again, Xinghe, do you have any special relationship with our counselor? Our counselor. Luo Xinghe thought for a moment and decided that it should be the counselor Zhu who chatted with him that day. What relationship could they have? No, Luo Xinghe answered simply. Jiang Chuan scratched his head, no. When I went to get my military training uniform that day, the instructor asked me all sorts of questions and seemed to care about you a lot. Really? Maybe our counselor is a better person, Luo Xinghe said perfunctorily. Just when Jiang Chuan was about to ask something, Liu Ziming, who had just finished his morning run, kicked open the dormitory door with his breakfast. Sons, your godfather is back. As soon as he entered the door, Liu Ziming saw Luo Xinghe. Xinghe, you're back. I just brought an extra portion. Come on, have breakfast. Luo Xinghe waved his hand. You guys eat, I've eaten. Have you eaten? Zhao Jiaxing put down his headphones and asked in surprise, your girlfriend even made breakfast for you. Xinghe, how lucky are you to have a girlfriend like this? Luo Xinghe smiled. Actually, it was not cooked by his partner, but he did eat it at his wife's house, so it could be said that it was cooked by his wife. At this time, the three people who had originally wanted to persuade Luo Xinghe to have a free love relationship were a little jealous. Jiang Chuan unpacked the preserved egg and lean meat porridge while asking, is your partner from our school? Where did your father and uncle find one for you? Can you help me find one? I don't mind an arranged marriage. Bullshit, Liu Ziming immediately interrupted, what do you mean by arranged marriage? This is called listening to your parents. Xinghe, let my uncle help me find one too. Zhao Jiaxing raised his hand, add one. Luo Xinghe didn't know what to say, so he just said, let's eat, and we'll talk after dinner. Hey, don't eat. Jiang Chuan obviously hadn't finished asking, Xinghe, let us see a photo of your girlfriend. That's right, we'll help you check it. Luo Xinghe thought that he couldn't let Jiang Chuan and the others see this. It wasn't because he didn't trust them, but now his relationship with Sister Qingyan was revealed. We still don't know what kind of storm this will cause. Sister Qingyan has not yet established herself firmly in the company, so it will take some time before we make it public. So Luo Xinghe refused and said, she is quite shy. Wait for 2 days. I will bring her out to have dinner with everyone. Oh, that's fine. The three of them didn't force it anymore. As the time for the military training was getting closer, they stuffed food into their mouths frantically. Half an hour later, the four of them were dressed and walked towards the playground together. On the grass of the playground, there was already a group of freshmen wearing camouflage uniforms, sitting in groups of 3 or 4, chattering. The military training instructors and some leaders were on the rostrum in the distance, making final preparations. At this time, a girl in the Architecture Class 1 group said, "Students from Architecture Class 1, hurry up and gather here." Who is dragging their feet? When several people saw this message, they couldn't help but be stunned. Who is this woman? Why is she so arrogant? Jiang Chuan explained, "I guess he wants to run for class monitor and has already started to make his presence felt in advance." Liu Ziming was dissatisfied and said, "I haven't even become the monitor yet, but I'm already angry. If you ask me, Xinghe should be the monitor of our class. After all, he was chosen as the secretary by our beautiful principal." Zhao Jiaxing nodded, "I agree. Xinghe being the monitor will also be beneficial to our dormitory in the future." No, Luo Xinghe waved his hands. He just wanted to have a bad time in college. As for being a class monitor or something, it was simply too much trouble. Okay, let's talk about this later. The most urgent thing is to find that woman first and stop her from shouting in the group. Jiang Chuan said. The three of them nodded in agreement, and then rushed to the lawn opposite the runway to meet up with everyone. At this time, other classes were still sitting on the lawn, only the construction class 1 was standing in a line on the lawn. The girl who was giving orders saw Luo Xinghe and the other three and said, "Why are you so slow? You made the whole class wait." Chapter 13, Submit Your Mother's Head. As soon as these words were spoken, the eyes of the whole class turned to Luo Xinghe and the other three. Liu Ziming couldn't stand this kind of people, so he directly said, "What the hell do you do? Look at the playground, is there anyone standing in line besides our class?" The girl said, "Who are you scolding? The instructor just said we should line up. Does that mean our class won't line up just because other classes don't? Did the instructor ask you to form a team?" Liu Ziming continued to refute. Luo Xinghe and Jiang Chuan pulled Liu Ziming from behind, but Liu Ziming was angry and didn't care at all. The girl put her hands on her hips and frowned. The instructor said to let the temporary person in charge organize the team. "You came late, so don't make trouble, okay?" They said let the temporary person in charge organize the team. Are you the temporary person in charge? Who gave you the title? Do you think you are the temporary person in charge? Hearing this, the girl was stunned for a moment, and after a long while she could only say, "You." Seeing this, Luo Xinghe and the other two immediately pulled Liu Ziming and said, "All right, that's enough, let's stop talking." Liu Ziming hates people who think they are leaders and boss others around. Just as Luo Xinghe and the other two pulled him back to the team, the assigned instructor walked down from the podium. "Zhu Ling, what's wrong?" Zhu Ling is the girl who just had an argument with Liu Ziming. "Instructor." Zhu Ling's tone became tougher when she saw the instructor coming back. "These four people came late and talked back to me. They refused to obey discipline. I surrender to your mother." Liu Ziming was not afraid at all. Even though the instructor was here, he fired fearlessly, "You are a bastard, and you are still being disciplined. If you don't know, you would think we are all prisoners. Instructor, look." Liu Ziming did this, and Zhu Ling didn't even need to exaggerate. The instructor immediately pointed at Liu Ziming and said, "Come here." "Come here." Liu Ziming stood in front of the instructor, even half a head taller than the instructor. "Let me ask you, you came late and didn't quickly join the team. Why did you argue with the person in charge? Did it make you look bad? It was not yet 8 o'clock when we arrived, and other classes were resting. Why did our class have to line up so early? Besides, who said she was the temporary person in charge? Instructor, ask our class, has anyone admitted it?" Liu Ziming turned his head and the class fell into silence. "Okay, you're awesome, right? Run 10 laps for me. Just run." Liu Ziming is an athlete who has been exercising for many years and often runs half marathons. He doesn't take these 10 laps seriously at all. "You're rebelling against him." The instructor was still angry and pointed at Luo Xinghe and the other two, "And you were late with him, right? You too, run. Damn, just run." As Liu Ziming's roommate, Jiang Chuan naturally chose to stand on the same front with him. Luo Xinghe and Zhao Jiaxing looked at each other and went onto the runway without hesitation. At this time, Liu Ziming had just finished 1 lap. "Why are you here too?" Liu Ziming asked while running. "We came here together. If you are punished, how can we be spared?" Jiang Chuan said. Liu Ziming said, "I just can't stand this kind of people. It's okay. I also think it's too early to gather. It's not even time to gather. And no one asked her to be the temporary person in charge. It's just that no one said anything and you said it. Jiang Chuan comforts Liu Ximing. Luo Xinghe also said, just run, just consider it as exercise. Zhao Jiaxing, that's right, we in 603 must be neat and tidy in everything we do. Hearing this, Liu Ximing's eyes turned red. Okay, in that case, let's show the glory of 603 on the runway. After saying that, he sped up suddenly, leaving Luo Xinghe and the other two far behind. Damn, running so fast. I think the rhythm between the three of us is suitable. Agreed, let's just run slowly. Unfortunately, Luo Xinghe only ran one lap before he felt his ankles getting hot and starting to ache. At this moment, Luo Xinghe, who had forgotten about his sprained injury, suddenly remembered that he could not do strenuous exercise during this period. After all, he was just able to get out of bed and walk, not that his sprain had fully recovered. So after running a lap, he just stopped. Jiang Chuan and Zhao Jiaxing also stopped following him. What's wrong? Is your foot injured? Luo Xinghe nodded, a little bit. Then don't run. Your feet are more important. So Jiang Chuan and Zhao Jiaxing each helped Luo Xinghe back to the front of the team. At this time, the instructor was asking the whole class to do push-ups, under the pretext of collective punishment, to eliminate unhealthy tendencies. The instructor and Zhu Ling were the only ones standing in the room, and Zhu Ling was pretending to help the students correct their postures. Instructor, Luo Xinghe shouted. The instructor turned his head and saw that it was Luo Xinghe and the other two. He immediately said, "Did I tell you to stop? Add 10 more laps." Instructor, my foot is injured. Can I take a rest? Luo Xinghe ignored the instructor's words and directly stated his needs. The instructor lowered his head to glance at Luo Xinghe's feet, and then said, I say you guys are too good at being sneaky. You've only run a lap and your feet are injured. If you don't want to run, do squats for me. 200 each. Instructor, my foot is injured and I can't do squats. Luo Xinghe's words were a little harsher. Unexpectedly, the instructor took a step forward, his body almost touching Luo Xinghe. He looked at Luo Xinghe and said, I've seen many people like you evading military training like this. Question mark. Luo Xinghe frowned slowly. He did have an injury on his foot, so how could that be considered as avoiding military training? Instructor, I really didn't lie to you. Luo Xinghe said loudly, besides, what Liu Ximing said just now is also correct. Our class gathered earlier than other classes. It's morning, but the sun is out. Can't you see it's very hot? If it's necessary for normal training, we can just bask in the sun. But the training hasn't even started yet, why are we standing at attention in the sun? And now, our classmates haven't done anything, why are they doing push-ups too? The instructor was confused by Luo Xinghe's series of angry attacks. He pointed at Luo Xinghe and said, You don't want military training, right? Well, get out of here. Then I will write, you evaded military training in your military training evaluation manual. Am I running away? Luo Xinghe felt that he couldn't reason with this instructor, it was like playing the lute to a cow. At this time, Zhu Ling walked up to the instructor and reported, Instructor, there is also a girl in our dormitory who evades training. She said she is on her period. I live in the same dormitory with her, and I know when her period is. Chapter 14, The Principal is Here. After these words were spoken, even the good-tempered Luo Xinghe was irritated. He walked directly to the pale-faced girl and pulled her up. Luo Xinghe shouted, Students, we come to school to study, we are willing to accept normal military training, but can you accept such unreasonable instructors? There is such a temporary person in charge. If she is really made the monitor of our class, will we still have a good life in the future? As soon as these words came out, some male students who couldn't hold back their anger stood up and said, I don't agree. I think the student who was punished to run just now is right. Why did our class gather so early and stand in the sun? Yes, instructor, don't you see that other classes are laughing at us? Even though it's military training, we are still your soldiers after all. Do you feel proud when we are laughed at? That's right, that girl's face turned pale just now, and she was obviously feeling unwell, and you said she wasn't on her period. Let me ask you, you figured out the menstrual periods of everyone in your dormitory at the beginning of the semester. If you had this kind of heart, you wouldn't have done such a thing just now. What are you yelling about? As soon as Zhu Ling saw the situation getting out of control, she immediately tried to take control of it, do you still have a sense of community? Shouldn't you be punished for making a mistake? As soon as he finished speaking, almost all the students stood up, and many students shouted, "Why don't you do push-ups with everyone else? Aren't you from the architecture class 1? That's right. Anyway, when the class monitor votes, I won't vote for you. I won't vote either. Me too. Damn it, let's go and complain to the leader together. I don't believe that with so many of us, the leader won't listen to us. Let us go, let us go." Everyone's anger was ignited at once, and Zhu Ling and the instructor's eyes changed from condescending to horrified. Zhu Ling was the class monitor for 3 years in high school, and her classmates had never talked back to her like this. This instructor has taught students more than once, and he has never seen a class of students so indignant. So the instructor asked Zhu Ling to calm these people down while he went to find the head of the military training regiment. When Luo Xinghe saw everyone standing up, his eyes couldn't help but become moist. He helped the pale-faced girl to sit down on the lawn, and then a classmate immediately volunteered to find the school doctor. Everyone was united in their hatred of the enemy and did not listen to Zhu Ling's orders at all. On the contrary, Liu Ximing, who ran a lap with his head covered, was stunned when he saw his classmates gathered together and the instructor was nowhere to be found. Fuck, what happened? What's going on? Liu Ximing pushed aside the crowd and saw a girl sitting in the middle with red eyes and pale lips from crying. "Xinghe, I saw you at the freshman party the day before yesterday. You were the principal's secretary. We nominated you to be the class monitor." "I agree. Just based on what Luo said in our class, I will recognize him." "I agree. I agree." Everyone was talking about it and treated Zhu Ling as an outsider. Instead, the pioneer Liu Ximing was confused. "Didn't I rebel first? Why didn't you push me to be the squad leader?" "It's okay, Xinghe will be the monitor and you will be the deputy monitor." Just like that, without giving Luo Xinghe any chance to refute, everyone had already determined his position in class 1. Although those 2 sentences Luo Xinghe shouted just now were completely because he couldn't bear it anymore. Just as everyone was gathering together, the head of the military training group, the director of the architecture department, and the instructor of the first architecture class all came over. The department head's face was very gloomy. He believed that under no circumstances should we contradict the instructors and no mass incidents should occur. "What are you guys doing gathered together? Who is the leader?" The department head couldn't punish all the students, so he had to pick out a few leaders. Luo Xinghe was afraid that Liu Ximing would stand up, so in order to protect him, he took a step forward without hesitation. The other students were more or less afraid when they saw the department head. After all, they come to college not to cause trouble, but to get a diploma. Unexpectedly, Liu Ximing still shouted, "There's me too." Jiang Chuan immediately followed suit, "I'm one too." Zhao Jiaxing was stunned for a moment. He had always been a good student and didn't dare to contradict his teacher. He was even more afraid that the teacher would punish him, because it was entirely due to the joint efforts of his entire family that he was able to go to college. If he really received any punishment, he was afraid of letting his parents down. After thinking about it, Zhao Jiaxing never took this step and stood with Luo Xinghe and the others. "Well, you 3 are causing trouble by not doing your military training, right? Don't participate in this year's military training. You will be treated as absent. You also incited your classmates to talk back to the instructor. Each of you will be punished and have to write a 5,000-word self-criticism." "No, teacher, don't you need to listen to us and explain why?" "Why?" The director said with his hands behind his back, "It's wrong to talk back to the instructor. What do you want to refute? Zhu Yuan, what do you think?" The director turned his head and looked at the counselor hiding behind. Zhu Yuan felt that there must be a reason why these students did these things, and although others might not know, he knew the relationship between Luo Xinghe and the new principal. Although Luo Xinghe refused to admit that he was her brother. Although the principal's secretary came over to persuade Zhu Yuan felt that the more the secretary persuaded him, the more it proved that his guess was correct. So Zhu Yuan directly called the director and the head of the military training group aside. "Two leaders, I advise you not to mess with our Ban Luo Xinghe." The director was stunned for a moment. "Zhu Yuan, what are you talking about?" Zhu Yuan glanced at Luo Xinghe, then lowered his voice and said, "Luo Xinghe is the new principal's younger brother. And the principal seems to value this brother very much. He even sent his secretary to tell me to keep it a secret." The director didn't expect there was such a relationship, are you sure? I'm quite sure. Why didn't you say so earlier? The director regretted it so much that he turned around and said, well, after several of us teachers understood the whole story, we all agreed that what Luo Xinghe did was absolutely right. When these words were spoken, all the students present were stunned. It's only been a few minutes and the director's attitude has changed 180 degrees. Moreover, the director neither asked the instructor nor the classmates about the situation. How did he know the specific situation? No, Captain, how can he be right? The instructor who taught the architecture class was also stunned when he heard this. Luo Xinghe is right, so I am wrong? Then what was that about me jumping around just now? Was it the king in a playing card? Shut up, the captain said sternly, and the instructor immediately dared not speak again. Who should shut up? At this moment, on the other side of the playground, Principal Qingyan and Vice Principal Luo Xinghe came to inspect the military training of the freshmen. Chapter 15, Qingyan strikes hard. Qingyan rushed over from the group. Fortunately, Qilong laid a good foundation for her, and the group can ensure that each project group operates stably, and they do not necessarily need the chairman to be in charge. In this way, Qingyan can spend more time at school. After all, the two things that Qilong was most concerned about before leaving were that Qingyan had not yet married, and the other was the development of Qingyan College. Principal, it's nothing. We just need to deal with some problems. As soon as the director saw that the principal and the vice principal had arrived, he immediately tried to make a big deal out of a small matter. Unfortunately, Qingyan didn't hear what the director said. Her eyes were all on Luo Xinghe's feet at this moment. Qingyan frowned. Xinghe's foot had clearly healed, so why did he need someone to support him again? Just as she was about to speak, she heard Luo Xinghe shout, "Report to the principal, we are planning to change the instructor." Change the instructor. Qingyan narrowed her eyes and glanced at Luo Xinghe, then asked, why? This instructor has no compassion for students and no humanitarianism. Everyone was resting, but the instructor asked us to gather early. We said it was unfair and were punished to run. Other students were also punished to do push-ups. Also, there was a girl who was clearly on her period, but she wasn't allowed to rest. Luo Xinghe repeated what had just happened without any error, and his classmates were secretly delighted. They might not dare to complain to the principal, but Luo Xinghe did. His prestige among his classmates has increased significantly. After all, only when something really happens can you know who is the real tough guy. And Luo Xinghe's foot. Jiang Chuan added, his foot is obviously injured, but the instructor doesn't allow him to rest. If Luo Xinghe really keeps running like this, I'm afraid there will be big problems. After hearing Luo Xinghe's words, Qingyan's face turned cold. She would never allow anyone to destroy the results of her father's years of work, nor would she allow anyone to persecute students under her nose. Qingyan strongly supports normal military training because it can temper the character of college students. But Qingyan could never accept such a behavior of showing off one's own authority and ignoring the legitimate demands of students. In addition, Jiang Chuan also told Qingyan about Luo Xinghe's foot injury, and Qingyan's face became even colder. Fortunately, Luo Xinghe did not run away. If he had continued running and his injury became more serious, Qingyan would probably be heartbroken. Despite the students' repeated complaints, Qingyan was furious but still remained patient. She walked up to the instructor and said coldly, "Are you the instructor in charge of Luo Xinghe's class?" The instructor nodded, even more panicked. "Do you have anything to explain about these students' reactions?" The instructor first looked at the head of the military training regiment, but the head ignored him. At this moment, facing the principal, the instructor felt afraid. His name is Luo Xinghe. He is a junior student in the school. He joined the National Guard Corps, which qualified him to be an instructor. As he had been teaching new students last year, he remembered that such an incident had never happened before. There are so many troublemakers in the class, but the whole class is united in their hatred of the enemy. How so? No. Luo Xinghe defended himself. "Principal, I do this to temper their will. Also, it wasn't me who suggested gathering early. It was the temporary person in charge of their class who suggested it. I just agreed to it." Who is the temporary person in charge? Qingyan turned her head, her eyes still stern, as if she would not give up until the matter was resolved. Seeing this, Zhu Ling had no choice but to step forward tremblingly. Principal, principal, it's me. Ji Qingyang did not embarrass the girl, but shouted, "Where is their class counselor? Is he here?" "Here I come." Zhu Yuan raised his hand and stepped forward. "Principal, I am their counselor." Ji Qingyang questioned, "The temporary person in charge of their class, are you so sure?" Unexpectedly, Zhu Yuan was also confused. "I didn't decide on the temporary person in charge. I wanted to let the students vote preliminarily tonight before deciding." "Zhu Ling, who asked you to be the temporary person in charge?" Zhu Ling lowered her head, her hands trembling. I thought you agreed in the office." "Office?" Zhu Yuan thought about it and realized that Zhu Ling had indeed come to his office a day ago. But he said let's talk about it later, but he didn't say let Zhu Ling be the temporary person in charge. After figuring out the matter, Ji Qingyang handed the girl over to Zhu Yuan. It would be better to let her counselor handle this matter. Ji Qingyang then dealt with Zhuo Xiefeng. "Since you are the instructor, let me ask you, did your instructor torture you like this during your military training? You have to run even if you sprain your ankle, and you have to crawl even if your leg is broken, right?" "No, his leg is not broken." Zhuo Xiefeng defended. "It's not broken." Ji Qingyang was furious and shouted directly, "It will be too late if it breaks. Otherwise, when you sprain your ankle, I will also make you run 10 laps on the playground. Are you willing?" Zhuo Xiefeng stopped talking. "Don't be an instructor anymore. Wait for the punishment." Ji Qingyang made the final conclusion. Hearing this, Zhuo Xiefeng felt like the sky was falling. But Ji Qingyang didn't stop yet. She called the head of the military training group over and instructed, "Do you have a spare instructor? Call him over later and let Luo Xinghe choose. The instructor can only teach their class if he is satisfied, otherwise he will keep changing." Yes. Captain Gao is a senior student at the school, so he naturally did not dare to disobey Ji Qingyang's words. After dealing with these things, Ji Qingyang walked in front of Luo Xinghe. In full view of everyone, Ji Qingyang actually squatted down and lifted up Luo Xinghe's camouflage pants. Check Luo Xinghe's foot injury personally. This scene shocked everyone present. The beautiful principal is so caring towards her students. Which university president can do this? The director even pushed his glasses, thinking that it was fortunate that he did not embarrass Luo Xinghe just now. Otherwise, I would probably get scolded too. It seems that the fact that Luo Xinghe is the principal's relative can be confirmed now. We can have someone investigate it then. "It's a little swollen again," said Ji Qingyang. "It's okay, Sister Qingyang." No, Luo Xinghe realized that he had called the wrong name, so he immediately changed his words, "Principal, I'm fine." But the 4 words, Sister Qingyang, had already clearly entered the ears of everyone present. "No, you should stop training in the morning." Ji Qingyang stood up. She was worried about Luo Xinghe's injury and had no time to cover up these details. And the girl who is on her period needs to learn how to take care of herself. Ji Qingyang turned to Zhu Yuan and said, "Give them a leave note in the morning and ask them to stop training. Whether they can train in the afternoon depends on the situation." Okay, Zhu Yuan quickly agreed. "Then let's do this first. Come with me and I'll take you to see the school doctor." Ji Qingyang supported Luo Xinghe instead of Jiang Chuan. Chapter 16, Treat you to the most luxurious buffet. For the next half hour, Ji Qingyang accompanied Luo Xinghe to see the school doctor. Vice President Wu Jie replaced Ji Qingyang and inspected the military training of the freshmen together with the director and others. There's nothing wrong with his foot, but he can't do high-intensity exercise. The school doctor said, "As for this girl, I think it's because of a disordered lifestyle and a preference for cold foods, which caused her dysmenorrhea. Just get more rest, put on some warm packs, and drink some brown sugar water." After hearing the school doctor's judgment, Ji Qingyang finally felt relieved. After leaving their house, the secretary was responsible for sending the girl back to the dormitory. Ji Qingyang took Luo Xinghe's hand and walked towards the playground. On the way, people would greet Ji Qingyang from time to time. Although Ji Qingyang replied one by one, her attention was still on Luo Xinghe. "Dad has entrusted you to me, so I will take good care of you. When we get back to the playground, I will ask them to issue you a trainee certificate. You can just sit on the lawn." Luo Xinghe shook his head. "No, Sister Qingyang, I want to train with them." Hearing this, Ji Qingyan stopped and pulled Luo Xinghe by the back of his collar. Xinghe, do you listen to your sister? Luo Xinghe raised his head and looked at Ji Qingyan. Her brows were furrowed and her eyes were sharp. She was obviously a little angry. Okay, then I have a small request, okay. You say, Ji Qingyan let go of Luo Xinghe's collar and crossed her arms across her chest. Just let me control it myself. If I feel it's too serious, I can do an internship again, okay. Luo Xinghe spoke sincerely. Ji Qingyan thought about it and realized that military training would only happen once in 4 years of university. If he is really allowed to be an apprentice, it will probably become a regret in the future. Moreover, military training is also the first step for classmates to build friendships, so it is not good to be completely absent. I agree, but you have to control yourself. You'd better be lazy and take good care of your feet for me. Ji Qingyan said, half nagging and half commanding. Luo Xinghe nodded. Ji Qingyan smiled, looked around and seeing that there was no one around, she actually took his hand. Luo Xinghe only felt that Sister Qingyan's hands were very soft, very warm, and very slender. In the following period, Captain Wang tactfully replaced a good instructor for the construction class. The progress of their class gradually caught up. As for Luo Xinghe, he would only participate in some of the easy trainings, but his classmates would not let him join in the more intense trainings even if he wanted to. On the first day of military training, under the leadership of Luo Xinghe and Liu Ziming, the first class of architecture has demonstrated strong cohesion. The day passed quickly, and when the military training ended in the evening, it was just past 8 o'clock. So Jiang Chuan proposed the 603 collective team building. This time, Luo Xinghe had no reason to refuse. After all, you can't skip every team building activity. He left a message to Ji Qingyan on WeChat. Sister Qingyan, we are going out to eat together in the dormitory tonight. It might be very late. How about I stay in the dormitory? After the message was sent, Ji Qingyan did not reply immediately. She might be busy working, because when Luo Xinghe passed by the administrative building, he found that the light in the principal's office was still on. Let's go, I've reported to my partner. Luo Xinghe said. Jiang Chuan patted his shoulder and said, our Xinghe is a man. He knows to report to his partner before going out to play. Luo Xinghe heard the joke and sarcasm in Jiang Chuan's words, and couldn't help but fight back. Yeah, I'm afraid you, who has been a solo since birth, won't understand. Fuck you. Jiang Chuan was completely hurt by these words. On the breezy summer night, he felt a chill in his heart. Okay, you decide where to eat, I'll treat you. Luo Xinghe waved his hand generously. Really? The three of them vaguely felt that Luo Xinghe was extremely wealthy. Last time he sent out 300 red envelopes in the group, and this time he was going to treat them all. You know, a few days ago, Jiang Chuan and 2 other friends went out for dinner and paid for everything themselves. Then we won't be polite. Liu Ziming rubbed his hands and said, I know there's a buffet, 79 yuan per person, let's go and have a great time at Xinghe. Luo Xinghe didn't say anything. He usually spent 588 yuan when he went to a buffet because his father wouldn't let him eat such cheap food, saying it was unhealthy. He shook his head and was about to speak to the 3 people when his cell phone vibrated. Luo Xinghe opened it and found that it was a string of messages sent by Sister Qingyan. No, you have to go home at night. Send me your address after you finish your meal and I'll have the driver pick you up. Where are you going to eat and what kind of food do you want? I have a good relationship with the boss of Qianmu. I asked them to reserve a private room for you. Do you want to go? Qianmu? Luo Xinghe thought about it and suddenly realized that this was the highest level buffet restaurant in the city. Only the lobby is open, and the private rooms are never open to the public. Only some of the boss friends or distinguished guests can book the private rooms here. Qianmu's standard is 3,888 per person. But the ingredients are fresh, the meat is of high quality and unlimited, and the chef's skills are top-notch. Therefore, even though the price is so high, Qianmu is always full. To be honest, even Luo Xinghe's father might not be able to get Qianmu's private room. Let's just eat something casually. Luo Xinghe was afraid of causing trouble to Ji Qingyan, so he was ready to refuse. Ji Qingyan, be obedient, sister has booked a room for you, just go and eat. You must go home at night. I'll send someone to pick you up later. Seeing that he had no way to refuse, Luo Xinghe had to agree. In fact, he also wanted to try how delicious Qianmu was. After all, it's a buffet restaurant with sky-high prices, so how can it always be full? Luo Xinghe was very curious. At this moment, Jiang Chuan, who was already drooling over the buffet, patted Luo Xinghe on the shoulder. How's it going, Xinghe? In Jiang Chuan's opinion, 80 yuan per person is already a high price. After all, Luo Xinghe was going to treat them all, and the four of them would have to spend 320 yuan. Jiang Chuan's monthly living expenses are only 1,500 yuan. Therefore, they can understand why Luo Xinghe changed his mind at this time. Why don't we go to another restaurant? Luo Xinghe said after reading the message sent by Sister Qingyan. However, Jiang Chuan and the other two mistakenly thought that Luo Xinghe thought the price was too high. So he said, no problem. It doesn't matter whether you eat at the buffet or not. We can all enjoy a bowl of mutton soup. What kind of mutton soup? Luo Xinghe asked curiously. Let's have the buffet, the restaurant has been booked. Let's take a taxi now. Have you booked it? The three of them looked at each other. Could it be that Luo Xinghe chose the self-service hotpot at 29 per person? Jiang Chuan asked curiously, Xinghe, which restaurant did you book? Qianmu. Luo Xinghe said. Qianmu. Zhao Jiaxing obviously had never heard of the name of this restaurant. He even rarely ate buffet. Jiang Chuan didn't quite understand what Qianmu was and thought it was just an ordinary restaurant. But at this time Liu Ziming's expression had changed. You mean, the Qianmu buffet restaurant in the city center? Luo Xinghe nodded. Yes, that's it. Chapter 17, a buffet restaurant with an average price of 3,888 per person. Oh my god. Xinghe, is your family so rich? Liu Ziming couldn't help but be curious. Unlike Jiang Chuan and Zhao Jiaxing, Liu Ziming is a genuine native of Hechen and has a relatively comprehensive understanding of the local situation in Hechen. In Hechen, especially for young people, Qianmu Buffet Restaurant is the T0 level restaurant in their minds. Although few people have eaten it, those who have eaten it have praised it highly. Even when Liu Ziming graduated from high school and had his last class reunion, everyone said that when someone became successful, they would definitely treat him to a meal at Qianmu. Jiang Chuan and Zhao Jiaxing, who were unaware of the truth, saw Liu Ziming so excited and naturally guessed that this restaurant was very expensive. How much? How much? It won't be more than 200, right? Liu Ziming shook his head. Qianmu, how can you eat it for more than 200 yuan? 500. It can't be 1,000. 1,000 yuan per person for a meal was far beyond Zhao Jiaxing's understanding. At this time, Jiang Chuan had already found the price of Qianmu on Douyin. 3,888 person. Oh shit. Jiang Chuan felt dizzy for a moment. How can this meal be so expensive? Are the chopsticks made of gold, or is the bowl made of gold? Jiang Chuan was surprised and asked, Xinghe, what does your family do to have so much money? Luo Xinghe smiled. With his father's personality, he would never let Luo Xinghe eat in such an expensive restaurant. My boyfriend booked it for us. Your partner. The three of them took a deep breath in an instant. With such a big investment, Luo Xinghe's partner must be a rich woman. Xinghe, does your partner have an older sister or younger sister? Can you introduce them to me? Xinghe, I'm more handsome than him, and I love to be a gigolo. Bragging. Are you as tall as me? I said I'm more handsome than you, who else can compare height? Okay. Luo Xinghe stopped Jiang Chuan and Liu Ziming from arguing, and then opened the door of the taxi that had just arrived. Half an hour later, Jiang Chuan and the other two stood in front of the door of Qianmu restaurant, feeling shocked. The restaurant's exterior is made of warm and textured imported marble, exuding a low-key and luxurious style. The magnificent 5-meter-high columns are finely carved, with intricate baroque patterns surrounding the columns. The golden lines outline their elegant contigs, supporting the majestic porch dome. Come on, let's go in. Luo Xinghe took the lead and walked in front. The two waiters standing at the door had already opened two heavy solid wood-carved doors. Jiang Chuan and the other two looked at each other, then carefully stepped inside. The restaurant was so luxurious and oppressive that they didn't even dare to speak. Following Luo Xinghe through their porch, the interior of the restaurant immediately appeared in front of the four of them. Under their feet is the hand-woven silk carpet from China, which feels soft as if walking on clouds, telling of the ancient and mysterious exotic customs. Above their head, the dazzling crystal chandelier is like falling stars. Thousands of Swarovski crystals sparkle under the light. The refracted light is dreamy and sprinkled in every corner of the restaurant, adding a solemn and gorgeous atmosphere to the dining environment. The walls inside the restaurant are covered with top-quality leather. The delicate texture and warm feel not only enhance the style of the space, but also provide good sound insulation, ensuring that diners can enjoy delicious food in a quiet and private environment. Art paintings by famous artists are hung in an orderly manner on the walls, ranging from classicism to modern abstraction, each of which is worth a fortune, injecting a strong artistic atmosphere into the restaurant. Each dining table is set with exquisite German Meissen porcelain tableware. The delicate texture and exquisite patterns emit a warm luster under the light, like pieces of art, quietly waiting for the arrival of delicious delicacies. The restaurant's food display area is like a small fresh food museum. Top-quality ingredients from all over the world are displayed on the icy and misty exhibition stands. The shell of a fresh geoduck from Canada gleams with a cold and hard luster, and the tender clam meat is faintly visible. The top-quality tuna from Hokkaido, Japan, has a deep and attractive ruby color, clear and delicate texture, evenly distributed fat, and its freshness is visible to the naked eye. The French Xinhe oysters have tightly closed shells. Gently pry them open to reveal the plump and juicy oyster meat, which exudes a fresh scent of sea water. There is also the Australian M9 Wagyu beef, with marbled fat evenly distributed between the tender beef texture. The delicate texture and mellow meat aroma are mouth-watering. What shocked them even more was the quiet atmosphere in the restaurant. The buffet restaurant never seems to be so quiet. Shouldn't it be bustling with activity? Xinghe, why don't we change to another one? Jiang Chuan felt uncomfortable after staying here for only a while. It seems like eating a meal here will put him in debt. Yeah, it feels like this is not something we can afford, Zhao Jiaxing also echoed. Luo Xinghe didn't say anything, because his eyes were fixed on the M9 Wagyu beef on the table. It is said that this kind of beef melts in the mouth, and Luo Xinghe really wanted to try it. Hello, distinguished guests. Do you have an appointment? Just when everyone was confused, their waiter came up quickly and asked politely. Luo Xinghe glanced at the message sent by Sister Qingyan, and then said to the waiter, I have a reservation, room 8. Oh, okay, the boss has told us. The waiter immediately understood and stopped asking questions. Then he immediately led the 4 people up the marble stairs to the second floor. Different from the quietness on the first floor, the second floor seemed isolated from the world and no sound could be heard at all. Even the footsteps of the 4 people were perfectly covered by the carpet on the ground. This is number 8. The waiter took the 4 people to a private room with double doors. The door opened and the 4 of them walked in slowly. Needless to say, the private room was luxuriously decorated. The 4 of them sitting on the solid wooden chairs felt it was too extravagant. The lady who booked the room has taken care of the bill and recommended some dishes for you. All dishes in our private rooms on the second floor are unlimited. If necessary, you can continue to order. After the waiter finished speaking, he brought out an electronic menu and asked Luo Xinghe to look at the dishes that Jiu Qingyan had selected for them in advance. Taking the menu, Luo Xinghe took a look at it, found nothing wrong, and then gave the menu to Jiang Chuan. The 3 of them gathered together and carefully looked at the names of the dishes on the menu. Chapter 18, Xinghe, are you dating a rich woman? Jinaldo Oyster Tower, selected Jinaldo oysters, opened on the spot, with plump and juicy oyster meat, paired with top-quality French champagne vinegar jelly, fresh lemon wedges and caviar, placed in a crystal-clear ice sculpture tower, feeling the freshness and luxury of the sea. 5J Iberian ham slices, select the top-quality Iberian ham, carefully processed by professional slicers, and each slice is uniformly thin. Paired with handmade crispy bread slices and tomato basil sauce, the rich aroma of the ham spreads in the mouth, leaving a long aftertaste. M9 grade Wagyu tomahawk steak is freshly fried. The M9 grade Wagyu tomahawk steak weighing more than 1 kilogram is fried on site by professional chefs. The heat is controlled according to the customer's preference. It is fried until the surface is golden and the inside is tender and juicy. It is served with black pepper sauce, French mustard sauce and grilled vegetables. The mellow meaty aroma of the steak is intoxicating. A 5 Wagyu beef sukiyaki and shabu shabu. Fresh lobster sashimi and charcoal grilled. A tasting of sturgeon caviar and ossetra caviar. Some of the dishes were even new to them. Some have only been seen in some domineering novels or TV dramas. The three of them briefly glanced at the actual photos of the dishes on the menu, then returned the menu to the waiter. He even pretended to be calm, as if he came here often to eat. In Jiang Chuan's mind, there was only one line of words floating around: since I'm here, I can't lose face. Seeing that no one had any objection, the waiter closed the door and left, notifying the chef to serve the food. As soon as the waiter left, everyone started whispering. Luo Xinghe said, "Xinghe, how did you get into Qianmu's private room? This thing is not open to the public. Xinghe, you are not the CEO of a listed company, are you? Are you with a rich woman?" The three of them talked one after another and asked questions non-stop. But Luo Xinghe just smiled and didn't answer. The three of them inquired carefully and confirmed that this would not bankrupt Luo Xinghe, only then did they feel relieved. "To be honest, I haven't eaten M9 Weiju yet," Jiang Chuan said. "You make it sound like I've eaten it before," Luo Xinghe drooled as he thought about it. "I heard that it melts in your mouth and the aroma fills your entire mouth." As they talked, they began to drool. At this time, Luo Xinghe suddenly took out his cell phone and said, "The food will be served soon. I have to take a photo and post it on WeChat Moments. I'm probably the first one among my high school classmates to come to Qianmu for dinner. And it's in a private room." "Yes, yes, yes." Jiang Chuan took out his mobile phone and prepared to take a photo. Among the four people present, only Luo Xinghe looked normal. Although he had never eaten in such a high-quality restaurant, at least his family background gave him some confidence to experience the world. At this moment, Luo Xinghe was chatting with Qingyan. Because Luo Xinghe didn't go home, Qingyan didn't go home either. She has now arrived at the group's office and is checking the daily work reports of each project group. "Sister Qingyan, we've arrived at the restaurant. Let's eat right away," Luo Xinghe said. Qingyan replied, "Eat slowly, no need to rush, I will pick you up no matter how late it is. Will you come back after dinner, or do you want to go somewhere else and have some fun? Do you have enough money?" After saying that, Qingyan transferred another 10,000 yuan to Luo Xinghe. Luo Xinghe retreated and said, "Let's go home after dinner." "Didn't you pay for the meal, sister?" "I'm not short of money." "That's good," Qingyan said. "Qianmu sukiyaki is delicious, you can try it later." Half an hour later, the dishes began to be served. The first dish served was the French Genodot oyster tower. The tender oyster meat looked even more tempting against the backdrop of the ice sculpture tower. The oyster meat is plump and full, with slightly curled edges. Against the backdrop of fine ice chips, it looks like a treasure just fished out of the deep sea. "Try this," Luo Xinghe said to the three people with a smile. Unexpectedly, they took out their cameras to take pictures first, and then started eating. Jiang Chuan was the first one. He hesitated for a moment, then picked up an oyster, squeezed some lemon juice on it, and swallowed it with his head tilted back. In an instant, his eyes widened like bells and his mouth opened slightly, as if he wanted to say something, but he was speechless because of the sudden deliciousness. After a while, he finally came to his senses and said excitedly, "Holy crap, this is awesome. There's something so delicious. What the hell did I eat before?" Seeing this, Luo Xinghe and Zhao Jiaxing also picked up the oysters to taste. The two nodded and said vaguely, "This taste is so delicious that my eyebrows are about to fall off. It has completely refreshed my understanding of food." Soon after, the dishes from the premium caviar tasting area were served. Each caviar is plump and round, sparkling with a dark luster under the light, just like black pearls. Luo Xinghe first scooped up a small spoonful of caviar with a special spoon, put it on the pancake, added a little sour cream and chopped onion, and put it into his mouth. The caviar instantly burst on the tip of his tongue, and the rich flavor spread. The three of them took photos as usual, and then imitated Luo Xinghe and put the caviar into their mouths. The tiny fish roe burst in your mouth one by one, and the rich and mellow flavor instantly blooms in your mouth like fireworks, with a hint of sweetness from cream and onions. Jiang Chuan immediately gave a thumbs up. Luo Xinghe and Zhao Jiaxing couldn't stop eating. After a while, other dishes were served one after another, especially the M9 Weiju beef, which made Luo Xinghe truly feel what it meant to be full of fragrance and melt in the mouth tenderness. He hardly had to chew the meat as it slid down his throat into his stomach. The four of them ate almost as much as they could, and only stopped when they had finished all their plates, feeling unsatisfied. I wanted to fight again, but there was simply no room in my stomach. So they had no choice but to give up. Everyone slumped in their chairs like bargy, and Jiang Chuan even patted his belly through his clothes. I'm so full. It feels so good. It feels like I haven't eaten like this in a long time. Jiang Chuan said with satisfaction. Yes, we have to thank Xinghe. If it weren't for him, we probably wouldn't know that there are such delicious food in the world. Zhao Jiaxing also echoed. Luo Xinghe smiled and said, if you want to thank someone, then thank my girlfriend. After all, she was the one who treated us. I agree, Liu Ziming said, thank you, rich lady. Thanks to Xinghe-san for having a rich wife. The four of them smiled and sat back in their chairs chatting. After chatting for a while, a man in a suit knocked on the door and walked in. You must be Xinghe, right? I'm the boss of Qianmu. My name is Ou Chen, you can just call me Brother Ou. Brother Ou, Luo Xinghe stood up. It's okay, I just came to see you. How is the food here? It tastes pretty good. Luo Xinghe nodded, it's delicious, our classmates all say it's delicious. That's good, that's good. Ou Chen took out a black gold card from his pocket, this is our VIP card. If you want to come in the future, you can come and eat anytime with this card. Chapter 19, Going home on weekends to stimulate my second sister. No, this is not good. Luo Xinghe refused. Unexpectedly, Ou Chen insisted on giving it to her. He insisted, Miss Jiu and I are good friends. I have told her about this matter. You can take it with confidence. Luo Xinghe saw that Sister Qingyan knew, so he took the card and said, thank you, Brother Ou. It's okay, you guys sit for a while, I still have things to deal with. After handing over the card, Ou Chen closed the door and left the room. Luo Xinghe took Qinmu's black gold card and sat down again. Only then did he realize that Jiang Chuan and the other two were looking at him strangely. Liu Ziming said, Xinghe, who is your date? Why did the boss of Qinmu personally send you a card? Xinghe, how rich is the woman you're with? Luo Xinghe waved his hand and said, brothers, it's better for you not to know about this. If I need you to know, you will know it sooner or later. Jiang Chuan and the other two looked at each other and didn't ask any more questions. Luo Xinghe didn't say anything, maybe he really had some unspeakable secret. The four of them chatted in the private room for a while, and when it was past 10 o'clock and the school was curfew, they hurriedly put on their clothes and went out. There was already an MPV waiting outside the door. Luo Xinghe asked the driver to send Jiang Chuan and the other two back first, and then asked the driver to take him back to Yanhao Dijing. On their way back, Luo Xinghe received a greeting call from his father. Boy, how is your foot? Luo Jiang asked seriously. It's just a sprained ankle, nothing to worry about. Luo Xinghe said. Luo Jiang smiled and said, you little brat, you're even using idioms. How have you been getting along with Qingyan these past 2 days? When will I, your father, be able to hold my grandson in my arms? Dad, you are too anxious. Luo Xinghe thought. It had only been 6 days since he and Sister Qingyan got their marriage certificate. How could it be so fast? What was he? A reproduction machine? Besides, he did take precautions the only time he was with Jiu Qingyan. Luo Jiang urged, hurry up. Your elder brother and second sister are both single, so our family depends on you and Qingyan. When Qingyan is free, we'll hold your wedding, and I'll be able to explain to Brother Jiu. Luo Xinghe was speechless for a while. Why did he feel that getting married was like completing a mission? Dad, do you have anything else to say? If not, I'm hanging up. You little bastard, you've married a wife and you've forgotten your father. Luo Jiang yelled, don't even bother nagging me. We haven't even talked about the real business yet. Ask Qingyan if you can come back this weekend. Your second sister is coming back this weekend too. She doesn't know about you yet. Give her a boost as she's single. Luo Xinghe, 6. With my second sister's temper, if I dare to provoke her, won't she hang me up and beat me? Luo Jiang seemed not to have heard this. After finishing his business, he said, it's settled. Remember to tell Qingyan. Then, Luo Xinghe heard a busy tone on the phone. Damn. This old man. Luo Xinghe was speechless. More than 20 minutes after answering the call, the driver took Luo Xinghe to his doorstep. He got out of the car and opened the door. It was already 10:40 in the evening. Aunt Zhao was still waiting in the living room. Seeing Luo Xinghe coming back, Zhao Ma stepped forward and took his coat. Xinghe, you're back just in time. Qingyan doesn't seem very happy. Go and see her. Not so happy. Luo Xinghe frowned and was about to go upstairs. Aunt Zhao held him back and picked up a glass of honey water from the table. Give this to her. Desserts can help cheer her up. She is in the study on the second floor. Thank you, Aunt Zhao. Luo Xinghe went upstairs with a glass of honey water. Arriving at the door of the study, Luo Xinghe knocked gently. Sister Qingyan, I'm back. The door is not locked, come in. Luo Xinghe turned the doorknob, and the first thing that came into view was the nearly 2-meter-high bookcase in the study. It was densely packed with books and looked a bit messy. You can tell at first glance that it is frequently turned over. Qingyan was sitting in front of a solid wooden table, writing something at the desk. Luo Xinghe walked over slowly, put the honey water on the table, and said softly, Sister Qingyan, this is the honey water that Aunt Zhao made for you. She said you were in a bad mood. Qingyan put down the pen in her hand, took off her gold-rimmed glasses and placed them on the table. Turning the chair around, she waved her hand and motioned Luo Xinghe to sit on the sofa facing her. It's nothing. No business is ever smooth sailing. Qingyan is mentally strong and rational, and can recover quickly even if she gets emotional. How about dinner tonight? Qingyan turned to ask Luo Xinghe. Luo Xinghe replied, it's delicious. My roommate almost licked the plate clean. Phut, Qingyan laughed and said coquettishly, is it that exaggerated? You must be lying to me. No, Luo Xinghe said, it's a pity that I didn't take pictures, otherwise I would definitely let you see it. It's really clean. Of course, I have a share in it too. Qingyan smiled and took a sip of honey water, reminding Luo Xinghe, if you can get along well with your roommate, then make friends with him. It will be very useful to you in the future. Luo Xinghe nodded. What about your foot? Does it still hurt? Qingyan was concerned about Luo Xinghe's ankle as usual. Luo Xinghe twisted his foot symbolically and said, it's much lighter now. If I hadn't paid attention, I wouldn't even remember that I sprained my ankle. Okay, I'll apply the medicine to you again later. You can't stop applying the medicine just because you're almost healed, said Qingyan. Luo Xinghe lowered his head. Qingyan slid her chair closer to Luo Xinghe. What's wrong? It's okay, Luo Xinghe said, I just feel that Sister Qingyan, you are so good to me. Silly. Qingyan touched Luo Xinghe's head. You are one of the few people I care about in this world. If I don't treat you well, who else can I treat well? Hearing this, Luo Xinghe pounced over from his chair like a lion and hugged Qingyan tightly in his arms. Qingyan was stunned for just a moment, then she stroked Luo Xinghe's back calmly. As long as you are happy, sister is willing to do anything. Luo Xinghe's eyes were red. He felt that he was lucky, although he had been thinking about it these past few nights. Obviously, he and Sister Qingyan have no emotional foundation, so why does Sister Qingyan like him so much? Maybe it's because some fate is destined. With some people, once you meet them, you commit your life to them. The two hugged each other for a long time before reluctantly separating. Qingyan touched Luo Xinghe's face and said, Dad just sent me a WeChat message, saying that we should go home on the weekend. Did you know that? Oh, yes, Luo Xinghe was so busy hugging Qingyan that he almost forgot about it. Dad asked me to ask if you have time this weekend. Qingyan stood up and took Luo Xinghe's hand. Let's see, if the group is okay, we'll go home. Okay, Luo Xinghe also stood up. The two held hands, turned off the light in the study, and left. Chapter 20, Don't Talk, Kiss Me. Bedroom. Qingyan barbarically threw Luo Xinghe on the bed and knelt beside the bed. Dad also told me to let him have a grandson as soon as possible, Qingyan said with a ruddy face and rapid breathing. Luo Xinghe stammered, Sister Qingyan, I don't think this matter is urgent. Qingyan nodded, indeed, you are still young, I mean in age, and I can't leave the group yet, it won't be too late to ask for it in 2 years. Luo Xinghe, who was lying on the bed, nodded supportively. After all, he is only 19 years old. He has barely enough time for eating, drinking and having fun. How can he be ready to be a dad? But Ji Qingyan unbuttoned her shirt and said, "You don't have to have children first. You have to cultivate your relationship first." The top slowly slid off, and Luo Xinghe clearly saw Ji Qingyan's shoulders and her abs. She held Luo Xinghe's hand, placed it on her soft waist, slowly leaned her upper body down, and her red lips easily touched Luo Xinghe's lips. Luo Xinghe wanted to say something. Ji Qingyan said softly, "Don't talk, just kiss me." More than half an hour later, Ji Qingyan changed into a light gold pajamas, with a soft satin belt tied into a bow around her waist, and her two smooth thighs were faintly visible under the long hem. Ji Qingyan asked, "Xinghe, do you want to wash first?" Luo Xinghe lay on the bed in a daze and shook his head. "Then I'll take a shower first." Ji Qingyan walked slowly into the bathroom, closed the door, and Luo Xinghe was the only one left on the bed. He held his waist and stood up, letting out a long breath. He thought to himself, no wonder people say that women in their 20s are like wolves and tigers. Sister Qingyan is really a little scary in this regard. Fortunately, Luo Xinghe is relatively young and can still withstand Ji Qingyan's attack. Another half an hour later, Ji Qingyan came out of the bathroom with her hair loose, and Luo Xinghe took over to take a shower. The two of them tossed and turned until 11:30, then they turned off the lights and lay down on the bed. Ji Qingyang's bed is very big. Not to mention two people, even four people can lie down on it. So they were a little far apart. In the darkness, Luo Xinghe only heard a rustling sound, and then he heard Ji Qingyan shouting, "Brother, why are you so far away from me?" Luo Xinghe moved his body towards Ji Qingyan. Unexpectedly, Ji Qingyan actually hugged his waist directly, pulled hard, and hugged Luo Xinghe into her arms. Luo Xinghe was extremely surprised by the tremendous strength Ji Qingyan displayed in this regard. "Hold me," Ji Qingyan ordered. Luo Xinghe turned around and hugged Ji Qingyan in his arms. Ji Qingyan rubbed Luo Xinghe's chin with her hair, and then she fell asleep peacefully. In the pitch darkness, with Luo Xinghe holding such a beauty in his arms and her sexy thighs resting on him, how could he sleep? In desperation, Luo Xinghe had to count sheep. A sheep. 2 sheep. 3 sheep. He kept counting until he had reached 998 sheep. At 12:30 in the morning, Luo Xinghe felt his eyelids twitching. Then he fell into a light sleep. When I opened my eyes again, it was already 6 o'clock in the morning of the next day. But Luo Xinghe was not woken up by the alarm clock, he was startled awake. He dreamed that his arm was amputated, and Sister Qingyan cried very sadly. When he woke up, he found that Ji Qingyan was sleeping with her head resting on his arm. And Luo Xinghe could hardly control that arm. He quickly used his other hand to gently lift Ji Qingyan's head, took out his arm, and slowly placed it on the pillow. Hiss! The compressed blood vessels began to supply blood normally again, and Luo Xinghe only felt an unbearable numbness and itchiness. So Luo Xinghe twisted and turned on the bed like a maggot. This action immediately woke up Ji Qingyan, who was sleeping next to him. Ji Qingyan turned her head and looked at Luo Xinghe's confusing behavior. She asked in a soft voice, "Xinghe, what's wrong with you?" "No, it's okay." Luo Xinghe gritted his teeth and said, "My arm is a little numb." "Why is my arm numb?" Ji Qingyan didn't understand. "Because, Sister Qingyan, you seem to be sleeping with your head resting on my arm." Ji Qingyan was a little surprised. "Sorry, I might have been sleeping too soundly and didn't notice it." "It's okay," Luo Xinghe shook his numb arm. Ji Qingyan half sat up, then slapped her head and said, "Did I forget to apply the medicine on you last night?" Luo Xinghe thought about it and realized that he was so busy with his work last night that he had forgotten about applying the medicine. He twisted his ankle and found that there was no pain, no need to apply it. "I feel better now." "No. Ji Qingyan threw back the quilt, got out of bed, and went barefoot to the small cabinet under the TV to get the medicine. "You still have to apply the medicine." Ji Qingyan took the medicine, put on her slippers, then squatted beside the bed and said to Luo Xinghe, "Stretch out your feet." Luo Xinghe stretched out his feet obediently. Ji Qingyan poured a little of the potion on her hands, rubbed her palms together until they were warm, and then slowly placed them on Luo Xinghe's ankles. Sitting on the bed, Luo Xinghe only felt his feet were warm and Sister Qingyan's hands were soft. Ji Qingyan stared intently as she carefully applied the medicine to Luo Xinghe before closing the lid of the potion. Okay, Jiu Qingyang stood up, going to school is still the same. You are not allowed to do heavy training. Don't think that you are completely fine just because it doesn't hurt. You have to be careful. Do you hear me? Luo Xinghe nodded. Jiu Qingyang smiled and subconsciously wanted to touch Luo Xinghe's head, but then she remembered that she still had potion in her hands, so she gave up. He turned around and went to the bathroom to wash his hands and brush his teeth. Then, the two went downstairs to eat and then went to where they should go. Luo Xinghe went to school, and Jiu Qingyang went to inspect the group as usual. At 7:40 in the morning, many students had already finished their breakfast and were sitting on the lawn chatting on the playground of Qingyan College. On the rostrum, Commander Wang of the Military Training Corps was still giving his routine speech. However, the instructor who originally taught the first class of architecture, Luo Xinghe, is no longer in the instructor team. When Luo Xinghe arrived at school, he did not return to the dormitory, but went directly to the playground. Because they were chatting in the group just now, Jiang Chuan said that they had finished their meal and were heading to the playground. Because of a day of military training yesterday, Luo Xinghe also memoized the location. After entering the playground, he walked towards the military training ground with ease and arrived at the destination in a short while. Without Luo Xinghe leading the team, the construction class 1 no longer had to gather so early. Like everyone else, the students squatted on the grass and chatted. Only Zhu Ling was sitting far away, looking down at her phone. Xinghe, you're here. Xinghe, come here and let's chat. After what happened yesterday, Luo Xinghe's name became known to everyone in the architecture class, and the students all had a good impression of him. I also have a good impression of 603 who led the charge. Luo Xinghe was just about to chat with the boys in his class when a girl stood up with a pink envelope in her hand and quickly handed it to Luo Xinghe. Chapter 21, Is that so? Brother-in-law. What's this? Luo Xinghe felt a little confused when an envelope was suddenly stuffed into his hand. He looked again and saw that the girl who handed him the letter was the classmate who was pulled up by him yesterday because of menstrual pain. Coupled with the half-smiles on the faces of the girls around him, no matter how dumb Luo Xinghe was, he could probably guess what was in the envelope. Xinghe, did you ask someone to confess their love? Fuck, in terms of handsomeness, I am not that much worse than Xinghe. It's just that my family background is a little worse than his. Jiang Chuan and others said, Xinghe, hurry up, open the girl's kindness and take a look. Jiang Chuan, who has only written love letters to girls since he was a child, has never seen what a love letter written by a girl to a boy looks like, so he seems very impatient. Zhao Jiaxing reminded him in time, are you stupid? Xinghe has a girlfriend. Have you forgotten the top buffet you had last night? Oh. After Zhao Jiaxing's reminder, Jiang Chuan quickly reacted, yes, Xinghe, you have to be loyal. Sister-in-law is so good to you and even invited us to a top-notch buffet. You can't play two-timing. What are you talking about? Luo Xinghe refuted Jiang Chuan while gently opening the envelope and taking out the letter inside. However, in order to protect the girl's self-esteem, Luo Xinghe did not let Jiang Chuan and the others see it, but turned around and read the contents of the letter herself. He did this to confirm whether this letter was a love letter. If it was really a love letter, he would have to return it immediately. Because there is only one woman in his heart now. And there is a high probability that I will only pretend to be a woman in this life. That is Jiu Qingyang. During the days of her flash marriage with sister Qingyang, she completely conquered the heart of Luo Xinghe, a college student, with her extremely turbulent love and sincere care. But Luo Xinghe couldn't be 100% sure. Even if there was a high probability that it was a love letter, what if it wasn't a love letter but a thank you letter or something like that, and he returned it as a love letter? How embarrassing that would be. Dear Xinghe, please allow me to call you that. First of all, I want to say thank you for what you did yesterday. Luo Xinghe roughly read the contents of the letter and confirmed that it was a love letter before slowly putting the letter back into the envelope. Then, he turned his head firmly, walked to the girl's side, squatted down, and wanted to speak. Luo Xinghe, do you want to say something to me? The girl who confessed to Luo Xinghe looked very shy. She even lowered her head slightly when speaking, and clenched her hands together tightly. Sorry, Qingning, I have a girlfriend. Luo Xinghe saw Sun Qingning's name from the signature on the letter. Thank you for your love. I would have done the same thing yesterday no matter who it was. Luo Xinghe gently placed the love letter between Sun Qingning's hands. Then without saying another word, he stood up and went back to Jiang Chuan. Unexpectedly, Sun Qingning changed her shy look and stood up with the confession letter in her hand, shouting, "Xinghe, who is your girlfriend? I want to compete with her openly. I liked you from the first moment I saw you. When you took my hand and pulled me up from the ground yesterday, you didn't know how fast my heart was beating. I really like you. Although we have known each other for a short time, I believe in love at first sight. I want to compete fairly with your girlfriend." As soon as these words were spoken, all the students in the class started to make a fuss. Jiang Chuan and the other two were so envious that their eyes turned red. She had a long ponytail wrapped around her fair neck and rested on her chest. The loose camouflage still can't hide her plump figure. Her standard oval face and a pair of peach blossom eyes are even more charming. In Jiang Chuan's eyes, Sun Qingning is already pretty. "Xinghe, although I don't know who your girlfriend is, I think Qingning seems to love you more." "Yes, Qingning has already confessed her feelings. Xinghe, you should give her a chance." "I agree. Besides, your girlfriend should be your high school classmate. Long-distance relationships are hard to maintain." Everyone started to make a fuss, attracting students from other classes to look over here. Just as Luo Xinghe was about to speak, a woman in high heels and a professional suit walked in from the entrance of the playground. "Xinghe, what's going on?" The people who came were Principal Jiyu, Ms. Jiyu Qingyan. After inspecting the group, the first thing she did when she returned to school was to go to the playground, saying that she was going to check on the new students. But it is usually good enough for the principal to conduct a thorough inspection during each military training. This is the second time in a row that Jiyu Qingyan has done it. Like punching a card. For Jiyu Qingyan, the reason why she came so often was first to see Luo Xinghe. After all, she felt that Luo Xinghe was still young and she had to take good care of him. Second, Jiyu Qingyan not only inspected the military training of freshmen every day, but she also often visited the classes of old students. "I also often communicate with students in a friendly manner, with the aim of winning their favor. After all, universities serve students. Only by understanding what students are thinking can we truly run a good university." Hearing this familiar voice, Luo Xinghe turned his head and saw Jiyu Qingyan still wearing gold-rimmed glasses and holding a white bag in her hand. Just a smile on your face can make countless students turn their heads. When Sun Qingning saw the principal coming, she immediately squatted down. Although the principal is very beautiful, she always has a cold temperament, which makes many students afraid to get close to her easily. "It's okay, principal," Luo Xinghe said, concealing the truth. "Are you really okay?" Jiyu Qingyan frowned slightly, "But I just heard that little girl say that she wanted to compete with your girlfriend for you." Luo Xinghe didn't expect that Sister Qingyan not only heard it, but also said it directly in front of everyone. Now, even Sun Qingning, who had been very bold just now, lowered her head again. Jiyu Qingyan stepped on her high heels and walked to Luo Xinghe step by step. She hugged Luo Xinghe's shoulders in public and said softly, "Xinghe, you are dating my sister. If you dare to betray her, I will not forgive you. Sister Qingyan has a younger sister." Luo Xinghe turned his head slightly and looked at Jiyu Qingyan's slightly weird smile. Then, he felt a pain in the back of his waist. It was Jiyu Qingyan secretly pinching him on the back. "Okay, Sister Qingyan, I understand." Luo Xinghe pretended to naturally accept the title of Jiyu Qingyan's brother-in-law and continued to act with her. But this sentence has already caused a huge wave in the hearts of all the students. Especially Jiang Chuan, Liu Ziming and Zhao Jiaxin. The three of them stood there like wooden men. They didn't expect that Luo Xinghe had such a close relationship with the principal. No wonder when asked to talk about his girlfriend, he always said it was a secret. Chapter 22, Meeting. "Classmate, do you still want to steal my sister's boyfriend?" Jiyu Qingyan hugged Luo Xinghe and said with a smile. Sun Qingning didn't say anything, but just lowered her head even more. Then, Jiyu Qingyan took Luo Xinghe's hand and directly put the black rubber band on her wrist onto Luo Xinghe's hand. "Since you are in my school, I will keep an eye on you for my sister. When you see this hairband, just think of it as seeing my sister. Do you hear me?" Luo Xinghe nodded and said softly, "I understand, Sister Qingyan." Jiyu Qingyan smiled again. She habitually touched Luo Xinghe's head with her arm, then left the architecture class and went to inspect other classes. As soon as Jiyu Qingyan left, Jiang Chuan and the other two, as well as the boys from the architecture class 1, gathered around them. Everyone chirped and asked, Xinghe, are you dating the principal's sister? That's awesome. No wonder Principal Gu directly chose you as the principal's secretary. It turns out there is such a relationship. Principal Gu is the new heir of the Gu group. Do you know the Gu group? I heard that this group is a multi-billion-dollar behemoth. Damn, doesn't that mean Xinghe is dating a rich girl? Hey, Xinghe, do you have any photos? Principal Gu is so beautiful, her sister must be pretty too. A large number of classmates surrounded Luo Xinghe, talking non-stop, and Luo Xinghe didn't know what to say for a moment. Fortunately, 8 o'clock arrived quickly, and the coaches who were holding the regular meeting on the podium also walked down from the podium one after another. Xinghe, line up. The new coach, Gao, is indeed very tall, has tan skin and a loud voice. Ever since what happened yesterday, Coach Gao naturally regarded Luo Xinghe as the temporary person in charge. Moreover, Luo Xinghe is more useful than ordinary leaders because all the students listen to him. Okay, everyone line up. Luo Xinghe commanded. Alas, I finally got to the point, and the military training started. Everyone was dejected, but they still stood where they were supposed to stand. Zhu Ling, who was directing the team outside yesterday, now had no place to stand and no classmates were willing to stand with her, so she had to stand at the end of the team. Instructor Gao was very satisfied when he saw that the team was assembled so quickly, more than twice as fast as the next class. He whistled in one hand and gestured in the air with the other. Classmates, our military training time is relatively short, only 1 week. And there will be a military performance at the end, so we have to proceed as soon as possible. Before starting a day's training, the instructor gave necessary explanations and boosted morale, then officially began the stop-turn training. Luo Xinghe trained with his classmates for the entire morning without stopping for a moment. Because he never felt any pain in his feet. This scene was also seen by Qingyan's personal secretary who came out to gather information. In the principal's office at this time, Qingyan held her forehead with one hand and twirled a pen with the other hand, saying, "Are you sure he didn't stop all morning?" The secretary nodded, "I saw it with my own eyes, and I also asked the senior instructor who teaches the architecture class." Bang! You little bastard! You didn't listen to me. Qingyan suddenly slammed the table, startling the secretary. In the eyes of the secretary, Qingyan has always been very rational and rarely gets angry. You go, Qingyan instructed. Several vice presidents have also found the student secretaries. Notify all the student secretaries to hold a meeting this afternoon. Okay, the secretary walked out of the door skillfully and began to look for the relevant person in charge to implement the matter. In the office, Qingyan calmed down. Luo Xinghe was not too angry when someone confessed to her because she believed in her charm. But he doesn't take care of his body. I clearly told him that he can participate in military training, but he also needs to rest. Since he wouldn't listen, Qingyan had to resort to unconventional methods. Canteen. After training for a whole morning, Luo Xinghe and the other 3 were already starving. They took the rice from the aunt's hand and started to dig into it like wolves. Luo Xinghe was not willing to fall behind, and the 4 of them chased each other, with the chopsticks almost leaving flying shadows. At this moment, the cell phone in Luo Xinghe's pocket suddenly rang. He looked up at the progress of Jiang Chuan and the other 2, then held the phone in one hand and ate his meal with the other. I took out my phone with difficulty and saw that it was a WeChat call from my counselor Zhu Yuan. Luo Xinghe answered the phone, stuffed another mouthful of rice into his mouth, and said with a somewhat unclear accent, "Hello, what's up, instructor?" Xinghe. Zhu Yuan said to Luo Xinghe politely, "You don't have to attend the military training this afternoon." Luo Xinghe stopped eating and asked, "Why, instructor?" "There will be a meeting this afternoon about the training of student secretaries. Weren't you designated as a student secretary by Principal Gu? You should attend." Luo Xinghe thought about it and felt that being a student secretary was also a serious job, so he had to support Sister Qingyang's work. So he agreed, "Okay. By the way, I asked Zhu Ling to give you the group owner position. Please inform the other students that we will hold a class meeting at 4-1 in Bishop Room at 7 p.m. to determine the candidates for the temporary class committee." Oh, okay, Luo Xinghe was no longer too disgusted with the temporary person in charge. Because he felt that if he wanted to perform well, he should have some say in the class. Otherwise, you will be at the mercy of others. Moreover, it is very likely that the temporary class committee members will be the candidates for the formal class committee after the military training. Because only this group of people has a mass base among their classmates. Okay, that's it. Zhu Yuan finished explaining the important matters and then hung up the phone. As the busy tone rang out, Luo Xinghe slammed his phone on the table. Just as he was about to start eating seriously, he saw that Jiang Chuan and the other two's plates had been emptied. Damn, you are animals. Luo Xinghe said in surprise. Liu Ziming didn't care about these. He asked, Xinghe, what did the instructor tell you? Are we going to elect temporary class committee members? Luo Xinghe did not hide it and nodded directly, because he was about to announce this matter in the group, so there was no need to hide it anymore. Liu Ziming said excitedly, Xinghe, can I be the deputy monitor? You be the monitor and I will follow you. Liu Ziming is well aware of the benefits of being a class leader, so he really wants to get involved. Luo Xinghe frowned. This was decided by the classmates' vote, not by me. You don't understand, Liu Ziming said. The rules for selecting temporary class committee members in our school are that the temporary person in charge is publicly elected by the students, and the temporary class committee members are nominated by the temporary person in charge. The students vote to approve or reject them. Luo Xinghe was confused. Is there such a choice? Liu Ziming explained, of course, what the school means is that it is difficult for new students to carry out their work. It is easier to carry out your work by choosing someone you can get along with. Chapter 23, I support you. Administration Building. Luo Xinghe finished his meal, rested for a while in the dormitory, and then went to the meeting. This was a small meeting room. When he came in, there were still more than 10 minutes before the meeting started and the meeting room was empty. So he wanted to find a place to sit down and watch Douyin. Unexpectedly, Qingyan's secretary came in before Douyin was opened. Hello, Master Xinghe, the secretary said, Principal Jiyu wants you to come over. Luo Xinghe knew that the principal's office was nearby, but he was afraid that Qingyan was taking a lunch break, so he did not go to disturb her. But he didn't expect that Sister Qingyan knew he was here as soon as he sat down. Okay, Luo Xinghe left his seat and followed the secretary into the office next door. At this time, Qingyan was looking at several budget reports. The secretary knocked on the door and said softly, Principal, young Master Luo is brought to you. Okay, Qingyan reminded, Secretary Jin, from now on, just call Luo Xinghe classmate at school. Don't call him young master anymore. It's not good for other students to hear it. I understand, Secretary Jin agreed, then closed the office door and left. Luo Xinghe took 2 steps inside and smiled, Sister Qingyan, what do you want to call me for? Qingyan took her eyes off the screen, then picked up the water cup and unconsciously glanced at Luo Xinghe's arm. When she found that the rubber band was still there, Qingyan felt a little better. She pointed to the sofa opposite and motioned Luo Xinghe to sit down. Luo Xinghe nodded and sat on the sofa. Qingyan took a sip of water, put down the cup, and spoke first, Do you know why I asked you to come? Luo Xinghe shook his head, I don't know, but I think Sister Qingyan didn't need a reason to ask me to come. Stop talking nonsense. Qingyan frowned and said, Did I give you a trainee certificate? It's not that I don't allow you to do military training, but I want you to train for a while and then take a break. Why don't you listen? Let me tell you, this afternoon meeting is specially for you. Qingyan raised her voice slightly and said, You are in a meeting here, you can't go to training, right? Luo Xinghe thought the meeting was for serious business, but he didn't expect it to be for such a reason. So he gently reminded her, Sister Qingyan, public and private matters should be separated. There is no need to mobilize a large force over such a trivial matter. Are your feet a small matter? Qingyan said, What if there are sequelae? What if my leg becomes lame? Luo Xinghe felt that Qingyan was exaggerating a bit. He had been resting for 3 days due to a sprained ankle, and it didn't hurt anymore. How could it be so serious? But when he saw Qingyan's serious expression, it didn't look like she was joking. Besides, she was also thinking about herself, so Luo Xinghe had to apologize. I'm sorry, Sister Qingyan, I was wrong, I just felt that my foot was almost healed, so I didn't rest. I didn't expect this much. At the desk, seeing Luo Xinghe's sincere apology, Qingyan's anger had subsided a lot. Thousands of words came to my lips and turned into one sentence: kiss me. R. Luo Xinghe thought he was hallucinating. What's wrong? Jiyu Qingyang stood up from the chair and said, you made a mistake. I will only forgive you if you kiss me. Is this request too much? It's not too much. Luo Xinghe also stood up, facing the pleasant body fragrance of Jiyu Qingyang, and kissed her on the cheek without saying a word. Jiyu Qingyang sat down with satisfaction and said, now let's talk business, about this meeting. Hearing this, Luo Xinghe was confused again. Wasn't this meeting called because he didn't rest? Was it some serious business? Sister Qingyang, you lied to me. Luo Xinghe also sat down and said. Okay then, Jiyu Qingyang generously admitted that she had indeed lied to him just now, and out of politeness, Jiyu Qingyang also kissed him on the face. And left a faint red mark on Luo Xinghe's face. Jiyu Qingyang joked, just don't tell my sister. Luo Xinghe touched his cheek with his hand, obviously not knowing how to respond to her. Jiyu Qingyang didn't say much, she just pulled him to her side, then clicked on a few files and said, these are the items decided by our school leaders after the meeting, take a look. Luo Xinghe stood beside Jiyu Qingyang. Jiyu Qingyang stood up and pushed him onto her chair, then she leaned over and stood behind him. The faint body fragrance on her body made Luo Xinghe take a long time to slowly focus his attention and look at the screen. Notice on increasing efforts to help students become talents. Notice on the reform of school cafeterias. Notice on school bathroom reform. Notice about replacing the water dispenser. Notice on the construction of an indoor sports stadium. This series of new measures made Luo Xinghe shudder with fear. It is said that a new official will start with 3 things when he takes office, but these were not the 3 things that Jiyu Qingyang did. It's like 30 fires. This directly brought about a major transformation of Qingyan College. How much manpower and money will this cost, and how much resistance will it encounter? You know, Qingyan College is a private institution, and private institutions, after all, have to make profits. Will the board of directors agree to Sister Qingyan's move? Luo Xinghe's father is also a businessman, and he is well aware of the difficulties his father faces in reforming the distribution of benefits. Sister Qingyan, this. Luo Xinghe said, from a student's perspective, this is definitely a huge benefit, but from your family's perspective, is this too radical? Really? Jiyu Qingyang said, maybe a little. When my father was still alive, he sighed many times at the current situation of Qingyan College, because he did not want a school that could make a profit, but a school that could truly contribute to education. But my father put too many constraints on me and put a lot of pressure on me from all sides, so these things have never been accomplished. At this point, Jiyu Qingyan's eyes became more determined, so, I have to act with lightning speed, kill first and report later, this way maybe there is a chance of success. Seeing Jiyu Qingyang say these words, Luo Xinghe even felt a little admiration for her. He originally wanted to remind Jiyu Qingyang not to fall into idealism, but now it seems that there is no need. Since Sister Qingyang has made this determination, it means that she has made all preparations. Even if there are difficulties and obstacles, we must do it. This is probably the difference between businessmen and entrepreneurs. One is profit-driven, the other is trying to change something and make society a better place. I support you. Luo Xinghe said finally.